India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion.
Welcome back. Exactly a week ago, on the intervening night of the 7th of May and 8th of May, India chose to give Pakistan a befitting reply for the role it played in orchestrating the murder of 26 civilians, mainly tourists, in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir, in that horrible terror attack on the 22nd of April. It's been a week of Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor reflected the sentiment of a country that was hurt, angry and also pained. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that India has drawn new red lines on terror that emanates from Pakistan. He has underscored the need for India to retaliate strongly. He has underlined that India has just suspended Operation Sindoor because Pakistan rushed to the world after suffering damage, and that India is closely watching the activities of Pakistan. What does this mean for the world and for the future of India-Pakistan ties? We have Major General Sanjay Meston joining us. He's a defense analyst. We also have Amitabh Tiwari, who's a political strategist. Thank you both of you for joining me on this broadcast. Major General Meston, to you first. Help us understand the kind of aerial attacks that Pakistan faced from India. And it was not just attack on the 9 terror bases of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba, but India also managed to attack air bases of Pakistan, also some military establishments. Does this also show the kind of supremacy that India has militarily over Pakistan, and how has India been able to achieve that? Has there been any policy that needs to be credited for this?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, we have achieved tremendous military superiority, whether it is Navy, whether it is Air Force, whether it is Army, whether it is in space domain, whether it is in cyber domain, and of course, the foremost and most important is indigenization. So overall, there has been a big shift in the philosophy. We are going in for Make in India and therefore Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this has made hell of a difference. And I think overall, this integrated air command and control system, this is a major step this we have developed in the last few years. And this is what has been very, very effective in repelling all the Pakistan Air Force missiles or the surface-based missiles or even the drones. And this was the most effective multi-layered deployment. See, basically the radars have been of a very high grade order because radars are the most effective to track anything, any incoming missile or drone. And more than that, then it is a communication network, which is network-centric communication, which is extremely important because whatever you detect, it has to be passed on to the concerned vectors, whether it is the air defense pilots, because the Air Force has multi-role aircrafts. So some of the aircrafts in a package are also dedicated for air defense. And besides all equipment on ground, surface to air missiles, so multi-layered packaging has been done. So communication is very important. And then is the vectors. Vectors, when I say, is the type of weapon system which is required to engage, whether it is through Akash, whether it is through S-400, whether it is through L-70 guns, Zu-23mm, OSA, AK, IGLA, all the Pichora missiles. So we have got a large number of these networks, very well coordinated on ground. So it is very, very high standards of coordination between the 3 services, because all the 3 services equipment has been utilized, very high coordination, integration, and of course, very, very skillful training, because this training is extremely important. So all this combination has shown. And of course, we had a lot of indigenization and this air defense weapons, including Akash and all. So they have proved so successful. So,
Mr. Tiwari, let me bring you in here. The collaboration of the Thai services is something that everyone has also been talking about. But when it comes to how the people of the country look at the Prime Minister, yesterday's speech was seen as one of his strongest speeches in recent times. And it did feel that he did take some time to take that political ownership of Operation Sindoor. And nothing of this sort would have been possible if there was no political will to go ahead with something like that. The fact that he was not really talking about it till Operation Sindoor reached a certain level, what does this say?
Yeah, of course, communication is one of his greatest strengths. And clearly, what we have seen as a change from the past is that the country now possesses a political will to deal with such situations through our very strong armed forces and striking at the heart or rooftop of the terrorist camps, as well as striking deep inside Pakistan on its military installations and air bases. What we have seen is that there is a clear shift now in our response towards Pakistan. After 26/11, we had sort of a muted response, wherein largely it was economic and diplomatic pressures being put on Pakistan. But now we have called their nuclear bluff and clearly showed our intentions that we would not be bowed down by that, and we would also strike militarily. Our armed forces strength is known the world over, and we are far superior in military as well as economically with respect to Pakistan. So what it shows is that, of course, he had a will, clear political will. He gave the armed forces the clear, free hand to respond. The armed forces responded on the ground. The armed forces people were also handling most of the press briefings earlier, the briefings by the MEA and the two army personnel, and then by the DGMO, brought a clear sort of what are the targets we have hit now and before. With all the proofs, India seems to have taken some lessons from the Balakot airstrikes, and also since the Western media, we have seen some biased reports. So after this operation has been ended successfully, he had he has chosen to come and speak to the national population and clearly spell out the objectives, the achievements, and the way forward, that we will not tolerate any sort of terrorism. And now a
Right.
template has been set. God forbid, if there is any other strike, we will hit the terrorist camps in POK and elsewhere. And if Pakistan responds, then we will also not shy away from hitting their military installations or air bases.
Right. Major General Sanjay Meston, also help us understand how is Pakistan going to recalibrate its strategy? What is it that India needs to be prepared for? Because India not just hit out at the terror bases in Pakistan, but also at the air bases, some military establishments as well. And this is not good news for Pakistan. So clearly, what is the kind of recalibration of its own military strategy should be Pakistan be attempting right now, and how should India prepare for that?
see, firstly, we have established a new normal. There is no doubt. Now, as regards what India should do, see, we have to review everything. We have learned a large number of lessons. And I think most important is now perhaps there is a requirement. See, defense and economy go together. And we have to probably start investing more in the defense budget. And the reason is, firstly, that we have to continuously to try to go indigenization, and it definitely costs money. Defense is a business; it's an expensive proposition. So we have to increase the defense budget, and perhaps we need to continue focusing more on drones. See, we have realized today, ground forces have not been utilized till date, and the navy was not utilized. It is only the air assets, whether it is the air vectors or the drones, etc. So I think this is the new normal we have set in. Ground forces are the last option, and that is the final punch. The Indian Navy is again the final punch. So this warfare was, I would say, a new normal, and therefore we need to invest more on air assets and including on drones, because drone now has become extremely important. Of course, both on the defensive mode and on the attack mode. So this is what we do now. Coming on to Pakistan, what strategy they will refine? I think first and foremost, they will realize that the Chinese equipment and the Turkish equipment, the drones and their aircrafts and those PL-15 missiles have all failed. So now they will try to look for new buyers, but do they have the money? So they would like to, resort to contribution from the nation for them. Nation can go to hell. So they will again may prioritize defense more, and of course their air defense weapon systems. And see, they cannot do everything.
Right.
their economy is in shatters. So as on the date, everything is advantageous to India. And now since we have set the new normal, see, a lot of people were
But
saying
India needs to be cautious, and that is the bottom line. Amitabh Tiwari also talked to us about the larger optic symbolism that was presented by Operation Sindoor. The fact that the name itself is very evocative. We also had, colonels of Sophia Qureshi to Wing Commander Vyomika Singh, and the Prime Minister himself saying that all political parties were on the same page, and that the unity of the country is foremost. The fact that India thought of nation first is what actually gave him the political will to go ahead with something like this. The optics of something like that, how do you, and also the fact that even in the press conference yesterday, there was Rashmi Rathi that was played, there was Ramcharit Manas, there was quoting from these scriptures. So clearly there is a lot of symbolism and optics that India has been projecting. How do you see this?
So clearly, I mean, the whole country was enraged when these terrorist attacks happened, and 26 people lost their lives. And Operation Sindoor clearly was a name suggested by the Prime Minister to avenge the deaths, because to avenge the deaths faced by the widows. So what we have seen is also that the whole country was united. Pakistan chose targets, if you see, along the LOC and along the western border to create some sort of divisions in the society. Attack on the Gurudwara, attack on the Hindu colonies in Jammu, attack on the Hindu colonies on the LOC. At this crucial juncture, the entire nation stood united. All the political parties in the all party meeting also gave free hand to the Prime Minister and supported the steps which the government has taken. So at this point, it is clearly what we have presented to the world is a unified face. Unity is our strength, and that's what also the Prime Minister mentioned, and all the religions and caste groups across the country have supported this move, and they are with the government on this aspect. And clearly we have shown to the world that India knows when to start and when to stop. Also, it cannot just be sucked into a war with a rogue nation, because it has bigger goals to achieve. We have
Right.
bigger goals to achieve. We have achieved the limited objectives we had to, and this was perhaps the point to go for a ceasefire, and we will tackle
Right. So it
now
is India's
to
new deterrence
economically
policy
what
that
we
is
need.
in place, and also making it clear that India will retaliate strongly with resolve and with a decisive action every time there is any misadventure of any sort from Pakistan. Thank you both of you for joining me on this broadcast on the broad political takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech yesterday. His first speech after Operation Sindoor. Remember, it's a week since Operation Sindoor was launched. And moving on to other stories now, a Coimbatore court will deliver its verdict in the Pollachi sexual assault case today. Remember, 6 years ago, 9 men from Pollachi in Coimbatore were arrested for blackmailing, sexually assaulting and filming young girls and women between 2016 and 2018. And today is when the verdict in this case will be delivered. Just to give you context to this case, 6 years ago, 9 men from Pollachi in Coimbatore, and this is a place where numerous movies have been filmed. They were arrested for blackmailing, sexually assaulting and videographing young girls and women between 2016 and 2018. And these are 9 men who have remained behind bars since their arrest. They've been prosecuted for multiple offences, including criminal conspiracy, sexual harassment, rape, gang rape, repeated rape on the same women. In fact, it is in 1925, on May 13, that a Coimbatore court is all set to deliver its verdict, and that's today. In 2019 is when the first case came to light. It was when a college girl lodged a complaint with Pollachi police alleging sexual abuse by 4 men in a moving car near Pollachi 12 days before the complaint was lodged. And it was the 19-year-old who was the first survivor to speak against this group of youngsters who were found to be luring women, sexually assaulting them, and also filming them. And all these incidents took place between 2016 and 2018. My colleague Sam Daniel joins us with more details on this. Sam, this was one of those brutal cases where the perpetrators not just raped women but also filmed them. And these were mainly young girls, and it came to light when a 19-year-old actually lodged a complaint with Pollachi police. Tell us, how did the investigation proceed in this case, and what is expected today?
Well, Vasudha, that's right. This was initially probed by the Pollachi local police. Then following public uproar, the then AIADMK government had transferred the case to the CID and then ultimately to the CBI. And 9 men were arrested after at least 9 young women, including a college student, had alleged sexual assault, blackmail and continued exploitation. At that time, there were criticism that the then ruling AIADMK had attempted to cover it up and delayed filing of FIR. We'll have to wait and watch. But this case had shaken up the entire country after, although only 9 young women had in writing given complaints, the allegation then was they must have exploited and sexually assaulted and abused more than around 150 to 200 women around Pollachi. The modus operandi was to befriend these young women, including students, through social media, call them to private places like hotels and private homes and sexually assault them, sometimes with their consent, but record them and then use their footage to clandestinely leak and then to also blackmail them for money and for more exploitation and sexual assault of these survivors. It was a challenging case as not many were willing to come on record to give complaint. And so far, the CBI had arrested 9 men and all of them remain behind bars since 2019. And the court is expected to give the orders around 11:30 this morning. All have been brought to the court premises from the Salem Central Prison, where they were put behind bars. And all eyes would be on what the judge of this sessions court would have to say now, Vasudha.
Daniel, we'll keep tracking that. We'll keep coming back to you. It's an important day for the perpetrators of the Pollachi sexual assault case. Remember, it is several women who complained against these men. 9 men in Pollachi were arrested in 2019, and they were arrested for blackmailing, sexually assaulting and filming young girls and women between 2016 and 2018. It was the CBI that had investigated this case, and today the Coimbatore court is all set to deliver its verdict on this. Meanwhile, 14 people have died after consuming spurious liquor in 4 villages of Amritsar district. The dead include 3 youngsters, each from Bengali and Marari Kalan villages, and 2 from Thariwal village.
देखिए जी, हमें कल रात को अराउंड 9:30 हमें एक इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है कि यहाँ पे स्प्यूरियस लिकर पी के लोगों की डेथ्स होनी शुरू हो गई हैं। हमें जैसे इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है हम तुरंत कार्रवाई करते हुए हमने जो यहाँ के लोकल जो इन्फॉर्मेशन के मुताबिक 4 लोग थे उनको हमने इमीडिएटली राउंड अप कर लिया। उनसे फिर हमने पता करा तहकीकात में कि यहाँ पे जो मेन सप्लायर है यहाँ का प्रभजीत सिंह, जो पंगाली गांव का है रहने वाला, पंगवा गांव का रहने वाला है, उसको हमने अरेस्ट किया। फिर उससे पूछा तो यहाँ का जो किंग पिन है सप्लायर साहब सिंह है, राजस्थान का रहने वाला, उसको भी हमने राउंड अप कर लिया। हमारी तरफ से सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के साथ डोर टू डोर जाया जा रहा है और जितने लोग इसमें अफेक्टेड हो सकते हैं उनको भी हम काबू करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
Multiple deaths had been reported in Majitia area near Amritsar. What we have learned from the police official, they say it was learned at about 9:30 p.m. last night when they learned some people, they consumed spurious liquor and immediately started dying in that area. What we have learned from the police have already arrested one of the main accused. They are trying to connect all the dots in this case. They are trying to find out from where they were getting this supply, and as of now they have already arrested one of the main accused in this case along with the other accused. They are saying the main aim to conduct this investigation to find out that who was the main supplier and from where these people were getting this spurious liquor. As of now, we have seen the administration has already started campaign door to door so that if more people they had consumed such spurious liquor, they should be provided immediately medical aid, and by the time the investigation will be underway. What we have learned, a lot of people they are still in critical condition, and multiple people had already been died because of consuming this spurious liquor. At the same time, we have seen 2 FIR have already been registered by the police so that the further investigation should be taken place to find out the root cause of this spurious liquor and from where they were getting supply of this spurious liquor. With Vijay Rajesh Kumar, this is Group Singh China for NDTV, Shri Muktsar Sahib, Punjab.
Moving on to some global stories now. Eden Alexander, an Israeli-American hostage, has been reunited with his family in Israel after being held captive by Hamas in Gaza for 19 months. Now, this 21-year-old had been serving in the Israeli army on the border of Gaza when he was captured by Hamas militants during a deadly terror attack on the 7th of October 2023. On Monday, Israel paused its military operations in Gaza for a few hours to facilitate this transfer. Meanwhile, global markets are witnessing massive gains after US-China trade deal was announced yesterday. NDTV's Sakshi Bajaj brings us details on the global market mood.
That's right. Global markets rejoicing and celebrating the US-China trade deal. We have seen Wall Street stage a massive rally with the Dow Jones gaining over 1,100 points at close and zooming really at close. S&P 500 gaining over 3% at close and the Nasdaq gaining over 4% at close. So what really are US markets celebrating? Of course, they're celebrating this decision with China. Remember, the White House issued a statement saying substantial progress has been made in these talks. They're held in Geneva. And of course, the slashing of tariffs by 115%. Remember, we were weeks after weeks, we saw US and China really, of course, go through this tariff uncertainty, raise tariffs continuously as far as both nations are concerned. And the world's two largest economies going through this tariff battle, of course, had investors on the edge. So now, of course, investors are celebrating this clarity. We've also seen Asian markets climb significantly in trade. Remember, Asian markets yesterday also had sharp gains, and European markets also, as well as, of course, Indian markets. So all markets really, global markets rejoicing, this clarity emerging and conclusion really emerging at the moment.
Well, it's time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
In the last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Denzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong,
right,
and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in depth and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shape
NDTV exclusive clearest images of Indian strikes, how Indian strikes brought Pakistan to ceasefire table. Prime Minister Modi makes it clear talks with Pakistan only on terror and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
Very happy that all is over and we are back to normal, we are back to our school.
I'm actually very happy to be back here. After all, this school is our second home, and it is amazing to be here.
Jammu and Kashmir educational institutions reopen in non-border districts. Pollachi sex assault case verdict today. Tamil Nadu, 9 in jail for sexually assaulting and also filming women. "14 people dead in Amritsar after consuming spurious liquor." Donald Trump's 3-day Middle East tour begins today. US President to land in Saudi Arabia. Donald Trump eyes Gulf investments in the US. Well, we start with NDTV exclusive, the clearest satellite imagery to be released so far of Indian strikes on Pakistani air bases. They show the extent of the damage caused by relentless Indian precision strikes. The images that you will see now will also include the bases of Sukur in Sindh, Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Rahim Yar Khan in southern Punjab, PAF Base, Mushaf in Sargodha and several others. My colleague Vishnu Shom, who's breaking the story for us, joins us with more details. Vishnu, over to you. Tell us the importance of these images and also what do they show?
Well, you know, when proof needs to be provided to the international community, not that India had any doubt, it always helps to have the highest resolution satellite imagery to actually explain what's happened. So forget about this particular map because this shows some of the areas which have struck. So take that map off. What we can actually do is focus now on some of these key images of Indian strikes. Now, this is an image of Jacobabad Air Force Base. It was struck by possibly a BrahMos or a Scalp missile from India. That entire hangar has been destroyed, as you can see. India's argument in all of this has been it was because of the destruction of what you now see on your screen, for example, another hangar at the Bholari Air Base in another part of Pakistan, that Pakistan came to the ceasefire table, as it were, because these are the most lucid, vivid satellite imagery of the strikes. As you can see, a missile went right through the roof over there and probably destroyed everything inside. If there are aircraft inside over there or UAVs, those would all have been destroyed. We're going to keep going with other images. This is Sukur. The building on the right-hand side, completely flattened and presumably destroyed. Again, if there were UAVs over here, and there is a sense that those UAV, this could have been a UAV base, then those would certainly have gone inside as well. Let's move to the next image. The next image that we have on the screen is of the Noor Khan Air Base. The Noor Khan Air Base is in Rawalpindi. It's very close to Islamabad, less than 10 kilometers away from the heart of the Pakistani military establishment. What you see having been destroyed over there are several key operational buildings right in the heart of Pakistan, in the very soul, in a sense, of the Pakistan airbase. Again, an idea of a precision strike that took place. As importantly, there have been attacks which incapacitated the Pakistani bases themselves. Why? Because these were anti-runway operations. For example, this image from Sargodha of the Pakistan Air Force Base Moshaf. If your runways are non-operational, your fighter planes cannot operate. It takes hours, if not days, on certain days, in certain cases, to repair all of these, depending on the length or the depth or the width of the craters themselves. But this is right in the middle of the runway at Sargodha, and therefore planes over here would not have been able to operate. Another point that the Pakistanis would have taken into account when they came to the ceasefire table. So those are a couple of key images that we have. This is from the Rahim Yar Khan airbase, another strike on the runway over there. The runway structure has been weakened. The satellite imagery doesn't show the depth of that particular strike, but the fact that you're hitting the runway with missiles is a clear indicator of how successful all of this has been. And the reason we are talking about all of this is because these strikes were just a few strikes, all right? They were not extensive. There were one odd strike or two odd strikes in every airbase. If India was to saturate these areas, then it would have been deeply problematic for Pakistan because their air force would effectively have been grounded.
Right. Thank you, Vishnu, for joining us with those details. Vishnu Shom, my colleague, with those satellite images showing the kind of damage that Indian precision strikes caused the air bases of Pakistan. Moving on, in his first address since Pahalgam terror attack and of course the subsequent action, India's military response, Prime Minister Modi has declared Operation Sindoor a defining shift in India's security doctrine, marking the emergence of a new normal. He has in fact justified India's assertive retaliation, framing it as morally necessary and strategically calibrated. The Prime Minister has said that it is true that present times are not an age of war, but he has also said that this is not an age of terrorism. Prime Minister Modi has said that India has drawn new red lines on terror that emanates from Pakistan. He also underlined that India has just suspended Operation Sindoor because Pakistan rushed to the world after suffering damage and that it would be closely watching the activities of Pakistan.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने आतंक के खिलाफ लड़ाई में एक नई लकीर खींच दी है, एक नया पैमाना, न्यू नॉर्मल तय कर दिया है। पहला, भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ तो मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जाएगा। हम अपने तरीके से, अपनी शर्तों पर जवाब देकर रहेंगे। हर उस जगह जाकर कठोर कार्रवाई करेंगे जहां से आतंक की जड़ें निकलती हैं। दूसरा, कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की आड़ में पनप रहे आतंकी ठिकानों पर भारत सटीक और निर्णायक प्रहार करेगा। तीसरा, हम आतंक की सरपरस्त सरकार और आतंक के आकाओं को अलग अलग नहीं देखेंगे। पाकिस्तानी फौज, पाकिस्तान की सरकार जिस तरह आतंकवाद को खाद पानी दे रहे हैं, वो एक दिन पाकिस्तान को ही समाप्त कर देगा। पाकिस्तान को अगर बचना है तो उसे अपने टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सफाया करना ही होगा। इसके अलावा शांति का कोई रास्ता नहीं है। भारत का मत एकदम स्पष्ट है। टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। मैं आज विश्व समुदाय को भी कहूंगा, हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी। से जब ये कहा गया कि उसकी ओर से आगे कोई आतंकी गतिविधि और सैन्य दुस्साहस नहीं दिखाया जाएगा, तो भारत ने भी उस पर विचार किया। और मैं फिर दोहरा रहा हूं, हमने पाकिस्तान के आतंकी और सैन्य ठिकानों पर अपनी जवाबी कार्रवाई को अभी सिर्फ स्थगित किया है। आने वाले दिनों में हम पाकिस्तान के हर कदम को इस कसौटी पर मापेंगे कि वो क्या रवैया अपनाता है।
My colleague Aishwarya Jain joins us with more details on this. Aishwarya, the Prime Minister making several important points there and also saying that India inflicted so much damage on Pakistan's air bases and military establishments that its DGMO on the afternoon of May 10th had called up his Indian counterpart to ensure that military action would not take place. The Prime Minister has made it very clear that the ceasefire was because Pakistan wanted de-escalation and India also felt that it is time to do that because it had already hit Pakistan where it hurt the most. Tell us a little bit about how the Prime Minister has also made it clear that there will be no nuclear blackmail that India will tolerate anymore. How is this playing out with people, and also how is it being seen politically?
Well, that's the very strong statement given by Prime Minister in his address to nation yesterday evening. It was, of course, Prime Minister making it very clear that those terrorists who are harboring behind the nuclear installations in Pakistan, India will not think even once to attack them in the near future if there is a terrorist activity in the country, and India will give a befitting reply to Pakistan, and that will be on the terms and conditions of India. It is Prime Minister Narendra Modi who categorically stated that Operation Sindoor was was dedicated to India's Nari Shakti, and those people sitting in Pakistan who tried to remove the Sindoor is, India want to say that a response had been given, and in the future as well, we will not shy away from hitting the terror camps, the terror infrastructures in Pakistan, and India will not distinguish between the Pakistan-sponsored terror or the terror organization. The response will be, on the terms and conditions of India. It is also Prime Minister Narendra Modi who stated that terror and talks can't go hand in hand. Terror and trade can't go hand in hand. Water and the blood can't flow together. It is a direct, message towards the decisions that Indian government has taken in the past regarding the Indus Water Treaty and the other decisions that will continue, and we will continue to isolate Pakistan in the near future as well. But a straight line has been drawn by Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday when he stated that any such terror activity would be considered as an act of war, and India will retaliate accordingly. Of course, there is certain politics which is going on. The Congress party had been demanding certain answers from the government. It is, of course, one of the demand that Prime Minister should address an all-party meeting and give a response to what has happened in the last 20 days. The Congress party is also demanding answers from the government that why it was only after US President Donald Trump tweeted or gave a statement that Prime Minister gave an address to the nation, whether there is some sort of mediation that the Indian government has accepted for the United States to do, what would be the venue for the mediation between India and Pakistan. If that is true, then government should come out and tell all the political parties about it. But lauding the Indian Armed Forces, lauding the Operation Sindoor, the successful one which hit the terror camps in Pakistan, every political party stated that they are together with the government. But of course, it's time that Prime Minister should come and answer on these many following points. Tomorrow is a big day, so
the Prime Minister making
cabinet
it clear
meeting
that
as well.
talks and terror cannot go
important
hand in hand, and also blood and water cannot flow together. Thank you, Aishwarya, for joining us with those details. You'll keep tracking everything that happens today in the face of the ceasefire that's going on. Remember that India has promised that it will be tracking Pakistan's activities very closely. The Prime Minister has also said that no nuclear blackmail will be tolerated by India anymore. My colleague Shiv Arur also has also explains the larger takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech yesterday. Let's go to him.
Things are still a while away from being normal because local administrations are trying to sanitize these villages from unexploded shells or ordnance that may have landed there and pose a grave risk. All of this obviously taking place in the backdrop of Prime Minister Modi's very powerful 23-minute speech delivered to the nation yesterday, where he drew several red lines around Pakistan, one defining that India will no longer tolerate nuclear blackmail and allowing terrorism to flourish in its shadow, and that any talks with Pakistan will only be about terror and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So on the one hand, you've got very decisive, firm, sort of unconditional messaging to Pakistan at the political level, saying that, look, we aren't just about talk. We have shown you by, bombing 12 of your forward air bases, the very heart of the Pakistan military. There's all this talk about, the next possible wave of escalations by India targeting their nuclear command and control elements. There's a lot of misinformation going around about, what the next step from Pakistan itself might be. So I think it is important to acknowledge that while normalcy maybe sort of looms on the horizon, these are two countries still very much in war mode. India certainly is, and you can pretty much bet that Pakistan is, given what they've been subjected to in the last 72 to 96 hours. And therefore, it's very important to acknowledge that things are on a hair trigger. It's going to take a while for the entire war machine to actually wind down, and therefore these points of contact and the big messaging from the political leadership will be crucial going forward.
Well, 1 week since Operation Sindoor was launched, areas near LOC are still tense but calm since the ceasefire is on. Watch NDTV's exclusive ground report from Uri sector.
Hello and welcome to this very special ground report from the line of control in Uri. That is Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, less than a kilometer behind me near the Indian Army's last post. We have permission to report from here, and we are reporting after the first day and night that has gone without any hostilities since tensions began between India and Pakistan 18 days ago. Over the next half hour, we're going to bring you the highlights of the Second Armed Forces briefing, talks between the two countries, and how much bigger India's military operation against Pakistani targets really is than we ever imagined. There has been a huge amount of offensive misinformation weaponized by Pakistan and also China about damage inflicted by Pakistani drones or missiles on Indian military and air bases in different parts of Punjab and Kashmir. The armed forces today, very importantly, clarified that not only is there no damage to any military base or air base in Punjab or in Jammu and Kashmir, but that each and every one of those bases is intact and is fully operational and ready to leap back into operations as part of Op Sindoor, should they be deemed necessary to actually continue. This is a huge deal because one would imagine that in such a high energy exchange, including air warfare, there might be some damage somewhere. But whether it is Adampur, Pathankot, Amritsar, Avantipora and Srinagar, no damage has been reported, and that's been confirmed on the record by the armed forces. This also means that operational readiness is not a joke. I'm in my bulletproof jacket and my helmet. I've got my protective gear on just under a kilometer from the line of control here in the Uri sector of Kashmir. But I can tell you that hostilities against Pakistan by India are revealing themselves to be much more dramatic and of a scale not understood just 24 hours ago. NDTV broke the news earlier today that it was also Karachi that was struck by the Indian Air Force. This was something that may have been missed, but the Indian Air Force did mention the Malir cantonment, which happens to be in Karachi. With this, you have every major city and urban center of Pakistan having been struck by Indian Air Force missiles on the early morning of May the 10th as part of Phase 3 of Operation Sindoor. Lahore, Islamabad, Rawalpindi, Sargodha, and now also Karachi. Now, the reason why Karachi is significant is because we already know that the Indian Navy, in its briefing yesterday, had said that Karachi was on target. The Indian Navy's missiles on its warships were primed to bomb the Karachi harbour and reduce it to rubble if there had been another escalation. Karachi is also historically important because remember, the same Indian Navy had bombed Karachi harbour back during the 1971 war. With Karachi added to the list of sites, in this case an air defence or surface-to-air missile site at the Malirkant in Karachi, the scale of India's attacks across Pakistan just got a whole lot bigger. It is not without reason that the Indian Navy is called the Silent Service. For 18 days now since hostilities began, very little information has emerged of what the Indian Navy has been up to. At yesterday's briefing, we got the first official word of how the Indian Navy had caged in the entire Pakistan Navy to harbour or close to port, and that Karachi had been on target. Now we know even more from today's briefing. The INS Vikrant Carrier Battle Group, an indigenously built aircraft carrier and its constituent elements, including submarines, aircraft and warships, had confined the Pakistan Air Force and Pakistan military aircraft to the Makran coast of Balochistan, basically meaning that the Pakistan military was unable to perform or conduct any overseas operations because of the presence of the Indian Navy's INS Vikrant, its aircraft, its MiG-29Ks, and all the other elements that were part of it. Another example of how the Silent Service was keeping Pakistan pinned down. A very significant part of today's press briefing by the armed forces was devoted to India's integrated air defense system, considering that the country came under attack by swarm after swarm of hundreds of drones, loitering munitions, possibly even missiles from Pakistan. It's not surprising that the spotlight was put on India's air defense weapons and systems. Very interestingly, after first saying they did not want to talk about specifics of weaponry and otherwise, well, today they went ahead and named some of those weapon systems. And the good news is many of them are indigenous, meaning homegrown, designed and made here in India, which is a huge statement for Atmanirbharta as far as defense and weapons are concerned. The officers particularly mentioned the Akash surface-to-air missile and the Defense Research and Development Organization built anti-drone comprehensive integrated system, which they say did much of the heavy lifting in defeating swarm after swarm of Pakistani drone. There were many sophisticated systems as well, but they, we understand, performed more of a role of deterrence, keeping manned aircraft well within Pakistani airspace and not daring to enter Indian airspace. The laughs of children, the sounds of livestock, birds twittering away. These are the sounds of normalcy one would imagine even in this forward village, the last village before the line of control in this Uri sector of Kashmir. But it's going to be a while before the people of this final frontier settlement actually return. Some have because they have no choice, but most are still in the depth areas in safety, still fearing Pakistani shelling. And there is another danger. The fact that there could be unexploded shells and ordnance in different parts of this village. State authorities and administration have warned all villagers to make sure that they do not return until everything is fully sanitized. Normal, that's not a word you see very often or hear very often in places like this. Maybe in a few weeks, maybe in a few months, maybe in more than a year. At the line of control in Uri sector with Ashwini Mehra, Shivarur, NDTV.
Well, exactly a week ago, on the intervening night of 7th of May and 8th of May, India chose to give Pakistan a befitting reply for the role it played in orchestrating the murder of 26 men, mostly tourists in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir. It's been a week of Operation Sindoor that demonstrated a whole-of-nation approach. In fact, the Prime Minister spoke about it yesterday, saying that it reflected the sentiment of a country that was pained and hurt. It had civil defense efforts, it had an economic offensive, and also a diplomatic outreach by India, all encapsulated within the broader strategic policy of India that now has become the new normal. It also neutralized Pakistan's aerial strikes, mounted attacks on Pakistani air bases before Pakistan pleaded for de-escalation. Now, a week later, DGMOs of both countries have held talks. India-Pakistan maintained truce. There is a sense of normalcy that has trickled in some parts of the border districts as well. In fact, the non-border districts of Jammu Kashmir have reopened their schools today, and there's no more assuring scene of normalcy than children going back to school. Those are the visuals there that we got you from Srinagar and several other places in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, let's go across to my colleague Nazir, who in fact spoke to students today and on the sense of relief that they experience on going back to school.
Well, thank goodness it is back to normal and schools in Jammu and Kashmir are open. Though in border districts they still remain closed, but in Srinagar and other parts of the Jammu and Kashmir, schools have been open except border areas. You know, schools were closed because of the as part of contingency measures, because of the fear when the bombs started falling. And the young kids who had never seen this type of harrowing experience, they had to be sent back. Schools had to be closed. I'm here at DPS Srinagar. And let me talk to the kids who have seen this. And the schools are open. You are smiling?
Yes, we are very happy that all is over and we are back to normal. We are back to our school after not a long time, after a short
I
period.
understand that was a short but a very harrowing.
Yes, we were not certain that will it be over this soon, but Alhamdulillah, it's now all is over and we are back.
Oh, you are happy. And you?
And yeah, I'm happy too. It was just that lot of uncertainty in my mind, and it was full of some suspense that if we could go back to school, appear at exams, and
so
everything
there
would
was
go back
that
to normal.
uncertainty whether you would be able to go back. So
Yeah, there was extreme uncertainty, and we were extremely scared about what was going to happen next and what were to be Kashmir's future.
And this must be first time in your life happening like this.
Yes, this is the first time we have went through this. So we were not sure about this.
Right. And you?
I'm also happy meeting my friends again, and the schools have opened after some days. So I was also a lot scared about what would happen next and what would be the conditions and after how much time would we be able to attend our schools.
Right. So now you are back in school and today is your exam?
Yes.
Yeah. And you?
I'm actually very happy to be back here. After all, this school is our second home, and it is amazing to be here. We were so scared the whole time being at home, whether our school will be all good, our teachers, our friends, if everything is going to be good. But after all, we put our trust in God, and Alhamdulillah, everything is well.
Alhamdulillah, everything is well.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I also felt really happy, joyful, because the school reopened now because of after this all terrific experience, and we had to experience this because we are Gen Z and Gen Alpha. We have not experienced it before, these blackouts, these sirens, and I'm really happy that the school reopened.
Right, and you?
I also feel really happy and I feel really relieved because after such a terrifying moment, schools are open. Now we can finally meet our friends, our teachers, and that was a really terrifying and horror moment for us as we have experienced for the first time. But I feel really relieved that our school is now open.
Okay, you wouldn't talk?
I'm very excited to come to school after a long period of time. I was missing my teachers, my staff, my friends very much. This was a very horrible and terrifying
And what
time.
was when you heard those loud bangs, explosions?
I was very terrified, right? I thought that what is happening right here? I was not able to understand as I have not never witnessed these types of explosions, these types of drones.
Thankfully, here the schools are open. Even yesterday when DGMO spoke to each other, they not only decided that there should not be a single round of fire, should not be fired, they also decide that there should be a troop reduction from the borders and the forward areas. It has happened after a long time. It means that while there was a war-like situation, both countries fought each other, but at the same time, they are restoring situation, semblance of calm and peace along the borders with lightning speed and reduction of troops from the borders and the forward areas. It's a huge move forward.
Heartening scenes of normalcy coming back to several parts of Jammu and Kashmir. With that, it's time for a short break for news and updates on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
Welcome back. As India stresses on the promise of a strong retaliation anytime it faces an act of terror, just like it did with Operation Sindoor, striking at Pakistan's terror hubs and also at its air bases. It's now clear that this is an inflection point of India rightly lowering its tolerance to terror, speaking from a position of strength, both militarily and also diplomatically. To understand the key takeaways from the Prime Minister's speech yesterday and also the future of India-Pakistan ties, we have with us former ambassador, former diplomat, Javed Ashraf. Thank you, Ambassador Ashraf, for joining us on this broadcast. The Prime Minister yesterday said that while it is true that present times are not an age of war, this is also not the age of terrorism. How do you see this in the context of the ceasefire that both countries, India and Pakistan, have agreed to, and the Prime Minister making it clear that it's all subject to how Pakistan behaves?
Well, I think, first of all, if you remember, Prime Minister has always been speaking about zero tolerance for terrorism. Now, it had to be, in a sense, defined as to how we would achieve it. In the past, we have also tried diplomatic measures, financial measures, mobilize the international community to exert pressure on Pakistan. We've tried every particular instrument that was available to us. We've also seen an escalation in our military response in Uri and then in Balakot before that. I'm saying this is because this contextualizing it, because what we are seeing today are some very important takeaways from Prime Minister's speech last night. One, of course, he rightly chose to wait to get the full briefing from the military leaders about what exactly happened, what was the nature of the damage. It was important to do that because it's an act of responsibility not to rush into making speeches as soon as something happens. And what he has said is, one, that there are three very important elements in this. One is that there will be a military response to an act of terror. And so that's a very clear thing. If you hit us, we'll hit you back harder. The second is, and I think that's a very important point, and we can discuss this further, is that we were not going to be back off because of nuclear blackmail or the use of nuclear threats, which we have seen in the past, and we saw also in the run-up to Operation Sindoor. And the third is also very important, which perhaps didn't get as much attention, is that we are saying that we do not no longer wish to distinguish between terrorists and those who sponsor terrorism, which is that the Pakistan state, its military. And that's a very important point because you've, as Prime Minister pointed out, you saw senior military leaders attending the funeral of slain, well-known, internationally proscribed terrorists. So this was an important point. Another very important message that Prime Minister conveyed, and this was important to repudiate any kind of hopes people had outside about mediating that terror and talks, terror and trade, and water and blood issue. And we've all seen that's the way he ended. So clearly now the issue is also very important to remember that there will be an element of both strategic ambiguity as well as a surprise element. We did something this time which we hadn't done before. So they were perhaps expecting something else, and the response was entirely out to you. So the strategic ambiguity is really about, okay, what will be the threshold when we will launch a kinetic attack? What will be the threshold or the scale of violence and nature at which we will take this option? And then finally, remember that this is an ongoing operation. We've had a pause, suspension, but it's really that we're not saying that this process has ended. We will remain alert. We will remain, in a sense, some stage of mobilization. And the new age warfare that Prime Minister spoke about enables us also to have rapid mobilization and be able to respond very decisively in a very short period of time. So in a sense, for the first time, we're clearly defining a counterterrorism strategy that is, in line with the objective of zero tolerance for terrorism.
Very nicely enlisted all the big takeaways, and I'm going to come to all of that in just a bit, but help me understand this basic thing that all of us have been thinking about. How does India balance its own aspirations of Viksit Bharat and also countering terror with combative operations? Because there's a cost to both. There's an India growth story that shouldn't stop because India needs growth, India needs jobs, opportunities, but India also has to go after Pakistan-sponsored terror because safety is so important. Is there a calibrated balance possible here?
No, I think that, deterrence has been clearly marked. Resolve has been clearly laid out. The red lines have been clearly drawn. You need a secure Bharat for a Viksit Bharat. I mean, the two are very clearly, very, very closely interlinked. If a country does not feel a sense of security or a sense of stability, then perhaps it is going to be very hard to pursue the vision that we have of a Viksit Bharat by 2047. And, as you've seen, every 3 to 4 years, we see a major attack, which leads to an extraordinary mobilization of forces, consumption of our diplomatic energy, an element of economic cost, great stress on our social fabric, government distracted from pursuing this. So if you have the cycle every 3 to 4 years, and if these attacks take place precisely at a time when we are riding high on our growth, then it does have a negative impact. So therefore, we have seen over the past 25 years or 26 years that we face this cycle of attacks and it leads to a familiar patterns of responses, which actually is worse for our long-term growth. And therefore, we need to be able to work on a deterrent strategy which assures our people, assures our investors that we are responsible and restrained, but we are capable of making India secure and stable in a peaceful and a secure neighborhood in which people can pursue their dreams.
That's very important. Ambassador Ashraf, also, US President Donald Trump has been talking about his role in bringing about the ceasefire. He has also repeated his offer to mediate on Kashmir, while India has made it clear that only return of POK and terror are on the table. And we also know that it's the Pakistani DGMO who wanted de-escalation. In fact, Pakistan was the one that wanted it, considering that India had already, hit out at Pakistani air bases. How can India navigate this diplomatically, specifically because India-US ties are also very important?
Well, I can't speak for what President Donald Trump has put out on social media. That's for him and his advisors to explain. But I think we've heard it very clearly from the government, the sequence of steps and I can tell you that I cannot imagine, and I've been through this in different capacities over the past 25 years, and more recently also in the government, that we would take the cue from the United States and say, okay, if you want us to stop, we will stop. Remember, we set out with every military action has a set of objectives. There's no open-ended military campaign in the world. And if you have a set of objectives, and if you achieve those objectives, then you want to minimize further costs and further risks, right? And if the adversary comes to you and says that we will not take any further, we are going to refrain from attacking you, we are going to refrain from pursuing missile and drone attacks, and that we will do some things to stop terrorism coming out of emanating from Pakistan, then we take that step, and we have simply suspended. We haven't said, okay, we believe you, and we are completely de-escalating. So we are in that state, and I don't think that there is any question of a third-party mediation. It has never been the case in the past. It will never be the case in the future. And logically speaking also, if you see around the world, unless two parties are willing to do something, no third party can come in and mediate and put pressure, and certainly not on a country like India. That is not going to happen. So any decision that we eventually take between our two countries will solely be the decision of our two countries. And whatever President Trump or US interlocutors might say publicly, or they may say it on social media, has no bearing on the sequence of events, our position, and our posture going forward. And as you have seen, what Prime Minister has clearly enunciated in his speech with regard to the prospects of India-Pakistan relations going forward, which is obviously the marker is nothing will happen unless terrorism stops. And that remains the case, including for the Indus Waters Treaty.
Right. Ambassador Ashraf, my last question to you, sir. A lot of experts have also been talking about how this is going to be seen globally, the ramifications of Operation Sindoor, because we're all convinced that, yes, of course, diplomatically, militarily, India has come out in a superior way. But people have also been talking about the dehyphenation of India and Pakistan that the government has been working on. What happens to that? And also, why is there no more international reprimand of Pakistan, specifically when it comes to its bluster around nuclear capabilities?
Well, I mean, I've said that before and wrote about it even before this started, that you cannot expect, or we cannot expect the international community to do our job for us. This is the responsibility of a major power like India to take the responsibility for securing her people and for safeguarding the country. So I don't think that we would be overly concerned about this prospect or this rehyphenation that actually Pakistan is very keen on, and that sometimes Western media and some of the Western powers would like to propagate as well. I think the hyphenation exists in the mind. The differences in the economies, the trajectory of growth, the differences in every attribute of power is for everyone to see. Technologically, militarily, economically, politically, diplomatically, and internationally. And this is something where anyway there is a war, there will always be some level of international attention to it. But that doesn't mean that we see ourselves boxed into South Asia or rehyphenated with Pakistan, because as I said, and I repeat it again, that there is a completely different level of, between the two countries on every attribute of power and completely different trajectories. And that is there for everyone to see. And we will continue on that path.
Yeah.
And we will continue to grow at the pace that we are. And we don't need to go every year to the IMF and to the World Bank and to other bilateral donors because that is a leverage for them. Why the international community does not reprimand them? I think partly they recognize that this is a aimless bluster,
Right.
which has no substance. And the second is that Pakistan probably, because has a lot of nuisance value, also have some strategic merit for them in terms of their own perhaps counter terrorism operations.
Thank you, Ambassador Ashraf, for those excellent insights. It's important and possible to be calibrated, responsible, restrained, and also for the India growth story to grow. Thank you so much for your insights. Moving on to some breaking news now. There's been an encounter in the forests of Shopian in Jammu and Kashmir. There's been a gunfight with terrorists. That's what we understand. That's the news that's breaking right now. My colleague Shiv Arur joins us from Gandarbal, and he is going to tell us what has happened here. Shiv, yes, we are trying to connect with Shiv in just a bit. The encounter has happened in the forests of Shopian is what we understand. And remember, this is happening even as there is a ceasefire that's been put in place, an understanding of peace between India and Pakistan. It's been a week since Operation Sindoor was launched, and also 3 weeks since the Pahalgam terror attack took place. Posters initially came up in Shopian also announcing rewards. What we understand is that there is an encounter with terrorists that has taken place in the forests of Shopian in Jammu and Kashmir, even as several districts in Jammu and Kashmir are coming back to being normal. There's a sense of normalcy in non-border districts, but this has happened in Shopian is what we understand. 1 week since Operation Sindoor was launched and encountered in the forest of Shopian. Remember, the Prime Minister spoke about Operation Sindoor just yesterday, saying that India will always hit back with decisive and resolute retaliation every time it is met with an act of terror. Any act of terror is an act of war against India. That's what he has asserted, justifying Operation Sindoor, which was launched just a week ago. And Operation Sindoor saw not just a diplomatic offensive, economic offensive, but also a military offensive against Pakistan, hitting out at terror bases. My colleague Shiv Arur joins us with more details on this. Shiv, tell us about this encounter that's broken out with terrorists in Shopian. What do we know so far?
This is deferred information because this is obviously a very sensitive issue that we're talking about. But yes, an encounter has broken out, we're told, with 4 terrorists in the forests of Shopian, an undisclosed location which we won't be getting into any more details in. We are told by our local contacts that a firing exchange actually began. The encounter actually began in Kulgam, which is further south from Shopian, after which the terrorists actually escaped from that site. And then contact was established once again in the forests of Shopian, where that encounter is apparently on at this point of time. We won't be going into details of either location or the numbers, but the security forces, the army and the CRPF are both involved. The Rashtriya Rifles are involved in this encounter. Remember, today is 3 weeks since the Pahalgam encounter. We've spoken to a number of people. There is no confirmation yet of any link with the Pahalgam terrorists. Whether they are or not is not established at this point of time. So we cannot confirm or categorically say one way or the other whether this is the case. We are also told that the last encounter that took place against terrorists was 11 days ago, a full 11 days ago. So we are still awaiting information on this developing story.
Right. Shiv, also help us understand the context to this. This is happening even as there's an understanding of peace. There's an understanding of ceasefire between India and Pakistan. There have been conversations that have happened between DGMOs. What does this mean for that existing ceasefire?
Two separate things, at least tactically speaking, because the ceasefire agreement between the two countries right now is on the line of control, and as far as airspace violations is concerned, it pertains basically to the militaries of the two countries. But remember that India has sent out a very strong message as far as any terrorist action, being waged against India, being interpreted as an act of war and being responded to militarily against Pakistan's military. Now, the genesis of this particular encounter is unclear at this point of time. We're not very clear whether there was an attempt at a terror attack or they were intercepted, or whether these are people who are being, pursued already as part of anti-terror operations ongoing in J&K at this point of time. All of those details are still in the air right now because this is the initial news break that we've gotten from the location, and I will also confirm to you that it began about a good 2 hours ago is when this operation started in Shopia, but no connection with the ceasefire understanding. But it's still extremely sensitive, and your question is pertinent because any conflagration in South Kashmir or elsewhere, any attempts to disturb the peace, any links with Pakistan-based terror groups at this point of time will be seen in a very, very serious manner, and in probably an even more amplified manner than usual. So given the new rules of engagement, this is a tense and volatile and precarious time, so we'll be tracking it very, very closely.
Thank you, Shivarur, for joining us with those details. We'll keep coming back to you for more details on this. This is about the encounter that broke out in Shopian. Moving on to other stories now, India informs WTO about tariffs plan. In fact, India has proposed retaliatory duties, is what we understand, tariffs to be raised on US products. US steel, aluminium will be impacted, and tariff implementation is after 30 days. My colleague Rishabh joins us with more details. Rishabh is from NDTV Profit. Tell us, what is the importance of India informing WTO about its tariff plan, Rishabh? Because it's clear that, both US and China have also talked about, their own plans, but also there are also other trade pacts that are being signed. India proposing retaliatory duties now. What does that mean for India's exports, and also what does it mean for India's trade?
What it is some sort of a toughening of India's stance on the global sort of trade platform is what we're seeing here. We're seeing that despite an active bilateral trade agreement negotiation, we've chosen to sort of oppose US's retaliatory duties at a platform like the WTO, like the World Trade Organization. Again, this is not the first time that India has done something like this. In 2018, during Trump's first term, when his administration hit at India with tariffs, by 2019, India had responded with retaliatory tariffs, and those were very, very broad-ranging as well. So we've chosen that same playbook this time around as well. We've gone and said that we don't appreciate the tariffs that we've put on our steel and aluminium exports, and we've gone ahead and chosen to retaliate. Again, this proposal, it's currently only at the proposal stage. These might take effect after 30 days. There's still no clarity on that. If the US reaches out for negotiations, or if there is some sort of a mediation of this, then these tariffs will not be implemented. But so far, as of by 8th June is when we can expect these tariffs to roll out if there is no sort of mediation coming in from both sides.
Thank you, Rishabh, for joining us with those details. Moving on to some global stories now. Donald Trump, President of US, will begin his Middle East tour today, his visit to Gulf nations. He will touch down in Riyadh today and then head to Doha and Abu Dhabi. What's expected behind closed doors? My colleague Vishal joins us with more details on this. Vishal, there's so much that I want to ask you. Qatar is also one country that has the military base of United States of America. These are countries that play an important role in peace in Gaza, and of course, when it comes to investments, when it comes to nukes and also oil. What is on agenda as far as Donald Trump is concerned?
Well, the official agenda has not been released, but there are several reports, several experts have said that the administration of US, they are looking for big time investments in the Gulf states. All the 3 states are some of the richest countries on earth. So they are, US president already has some businesses in the region through his family. His sons have a lot of businesses in these countries. So he's, trying to expand on that. There's reports suggesting that there could be investments as much as $1 trillion to be precise. And there are several other things also on the agenda as per reports, such as there is a prospect that the US-Saudi nuclear pact could be, signed. There could be big time discussions on that, because Saudi had been trying for this deal to be signed. So far that has not happened, but so that is a likelihood. And there's also another angle to the whole story, which is that he won't be visiting Israel while he's in the Middle East. Though there's no reason given by the administration as to why he is not visiting Israel, but so far that is the schedule. And also the fact that there could be some discussions on the Israel-Hamas war and the Gaza ceasefire as to what's the way forward, because as we know, in the last 2 months, the ceasefire, the fragile ceasefire which had been reached, has not been successful. So these topics, these will be the main topics, and of course investment will be the bigger picture as to what kind of new projects both the countries start, and also the civil nuclear pact that is expected to be talked about.
Oil, nukes, Gaza, perhaps a luxury jet, and $1 trillion in investment promises. From Riyadh to Doha and Dubai, Trump is chasing what he loves most: big business, bigger headlines, and billionaire friendships. As Donald Trump kickstarts his first foreign tour of his second term, the world is watching, but not just for handshakes and speeches.
President Trump will return to re-emphasize his continued vision for a proud, prosperous, and successful Middle East, where the United States and Middle Eastern nations are in cooperative relationships, and where extremism is defeated in place of commerce and cultural exchanges.
As experts assert, Trump wants to return to Washington with a trophy. So behind the red carpets and closed-door boardrooms lies a high-stakes geopolitical chessboard, and India would do well to take note. In just 72 hours, Trump will crisscross Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, and his mission? Secure massive trade, tech, and oil deals, and perhaps even push for controversial nuclear cooperation with Riyadh. And the 3 energy-rich Gulf Arab nations? Well, they are racing to turn their influence over Donald Trump into tangible gains.
This trip ultimately highlights how we stand on the brink of the golden age for both America and the Middle East.
Strikingly, though, Trump won't be visiting Israel this time, despite being hailed once as Netanyahu's closest ally. Instead, he's expected to field tough questions from Arab leaders about the Israeli offensive in Gaza, the deepening humanitarian crisis, and America's stance on a 2-state solution. Meanwhile, in a subtle but explosive move, Trump is reportedly toying with renaming the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf. Now, that may sound like semantics, but it's the kind of name drop that could further inflame Iran at a time of fragile nuclear negotiation. The Gulf states, meanwhile, appear torn, eager to support the United States, but still unclear on what exactly the US policy is. But why should India care? Well, this isn't just another Trump tour. It's a geopolitical balancing act with ripple effects across oil prices, trade routes, and global alliances. As you are well aware, India depends on Gulf nations for oil imports, remittances from more than 9 million expats, and also strategic trade corridors like the India-Middle East-Europe corridor. And let's not forget, China is circling the Gulf too. So as Trump courts Gulf dollars, Beijing courts Gulf loyalty. This isn't just about American politics. It's about who really pulls the strings in the new world order. All eyes are on whether Trump's diplomacy is smart statecraft or pure showbiz, and whether this is a shift in West Asia's balance of power. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV World.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Gargi Raut. Stay with us for all the big updates coming in. A gunfight has broken out in Jammu and Kashmir. We'll get you those details. First, a look at the headlines we're tracking. An encounter taking place in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian between security forces and terrorists is what sources have told NDTV. NDTV also gets you the clearest images of Indian strikes inside Pakistan on army bases and terror hubs. How the strikes brought Pakistan to the ceasefire table. Some sense of normalcy returning to the border towns and areas as educational institutions reopen in non-border areas.
We are very happy that all is over and we are back to normal, we are back to our school.
I'm actually very happy to be back here. After all, this school is our second home, and it is amazing to be here.
Shinde Sena's outreach to Raj Thackeray. Maha Minister meets with Raj Thackeray. This outreach comes amid a buzz about a possible patch-up between the two Thackerays. And a big development in the Pollachi sex assault case. The 9 are convicted. This was a shocking case from Tamil Nadu where these men were sexually assaulting, filming and blackmailing women. Now they have all been convicted by the court. India proposes retaliatory tariffs against the United States. A face-off over US steel aluminium tariffs proposed by India. And a day after a massive rally at the stock markets, where the market saw an increase, the largest in 4 years, now a decline of 1%. All right, first up, some breaking news now coming in from Jammu and Kashmir, and with concerning news, a gunfight has broken out in the Shopian between security forces and four terrorists. Now, this is what sources have told NDTV, sources in the security establishment. Now, this is a gunfight that has broken out, an encounter, and it said that these terrorists could be restricted in that area, in the forest area there in Shopian. The encounter initially began in Kulgam and then in Shopian. Now, this is not, anything to do with, any cross-border situation. This is terrorists within Jammu and Kashmir, and now this encounter breaking out. Let's go across to Nazir, who joins us from Srinagar. Nazir, what are you hearing?
Well, details are still sketchy, but what we know so far, their security force had launched an operation in this area. It's a forest area. Some gunshots have been heard. There are reports some militants may be killed, but no confirmation yet. I spoke to a senior police officer. He said it is a thick alpine forest, so it will take a while before he can confirm. But there have been gunshots has been heard. There are two important things. Number one, it is an operation which was initiated by the security forces. And it's not any attack on the security forces. So the encounter, maybe we can call it encounter, after security forces launched the operation. Second thing, it has nothing to do with the situation along the line of control. And third thing, it appears that this encounter has also no link with the Pahalgam massacre, because that operation is simultaneously going on for the last 3 weeks. So this is a situation there in the Shopian Kulgam forest area, where this operation is underway. Gunshots have been heard. Different reports are coming in, but we'll only say it once there's a confirmation from the security forces, official confirmation from the police, that they are conducting the operation, not us. And we'll broadcast the information once it is confirmed. So far, what police have confirmed to me, that gunshots were there, but there is no confirmation if any militant has been killed. It is a forest area, and it will take a while to get some sort of clear picture what exactly is happening.
All right, Nazir, they're reporting from Srinagar. Let's now go across to Shiv, who joins us from Gandarbal. And Shiv, as Nazir is telling us, this has nothing, of course, to do with any cross-border situation. This is also not to do with Pahalgam, but the initial reports coming in of gunshots being fired there and an encounter underway.
That is correct, Gargi. The Shopian town itself is surrounded by very thick forests. Though there's one particular forest, we won't take its name because this is a live operation that we're reporting here on NDTV, and we won't be revealing any operational details either. There are apparently 4 terrorists who are being encountered right now. The actual outbreak, the contact with these terrorists in this particular forest outside Shopian began about a couple of hours ago. There has been an exchange of fire. There was a separate exchange of fire with this same group apparently in Kulgam at an unspecified time, after which the terrorists actually managed to escape, and now it has broken out once again in the Shopian forest. Like Nazir said, no confirmation, no link whatsoever with the Pahalgam terrorists. Remember, today happens to be 3 weeks since the Pahalgam massacre. Ongoing operations have been continuing in various parts of J&K to hunt down those 3 terrorists who were involved in the massacre of 26 tourists. This particular encounter appears to be different. At least so far, there is no link with what has happened in Pahalgam. We're hearing from our local contacts in Shopian that 2 of the 4 terrorists who are involved in this encounter right now may be foreign terrorists. Identities are not coming to the fore at this point of time. Is there a possible link with some of the houses that had been demolished in either Shopian, Kupwara or Pulwama is also unclear at this time. But this is the latest, the latest aspect of what has apparently been an ongoing operation in South Kashmir. So we're awaiting details, and like Nazir also rightly said, nothing to do with what's happening on the line of control, etc. This is a security forces initiated encounter where an intelligence tip-off or an intelligence alert has led them to, to attempt to ambush these terrorists who may have been trying to either get away or hide, and now that operation is on in Shopian.
Right, Shiv, but at a time when things are slowly returning to normal, of course, it's concerning. But we'd like to also tell our viewers that these combing operations, this sort of operation where they're looking for terrorists hiding in various, villages or forests has also been going on. And so this is a result of that, where some sort of information was received regarding terrorists. And this, again, remains something that has been, a big challenge in Jammu and Kashmir.
You're absolutely right. There have been multiple ongoing operations in different parts of not just the Kashmir Valley, but also in the Jammu area. Obviously, we've not been reporting on precisely where these operations have been happening. But the truth of the matter is that since Pahalgam, various sporadic encounters have taken place parallel to the demolition of certain terrorists' homes, etc., in order to try and bring out more information. Over 100 overground workers who are basically the madadgars or the facilitators of terrorists in the local population have already been detained by security agencies. Some of them are being interrogated. It is understood that up to 15 OGWs, Gargi, have either directly or indirectly been facilitators or helpers of the Pahalgam terrorists. Whether the ongoing operation has some link with Pahalgam is not clear right now. Remember, at this point of time, there is no reason to believe that the security forces, at least in public, have not said about anything about whether they know where those terrorists might be. Are they still in Pahalgam? Remember 6 days ago when we were reporting from Pahalgam, just a couple of days before Operation Sindoor began, the CRPF there had actually briefed the media and said that there were 54 escape routes from Pahalgam and the terrorists could have taken any one of them. There may be some safe haven or some safe house or a hideout within the forests of Pahalgam themselves or in the Anantnag district at large. It's incredible to think that it's 21 days have passed. A near war has happened between India and Pakistan. So many bases have been, reduced to rubble. Terror sites have been impacted by Indian missiles. But the 3 terrorists responsible for Pahalgam are still out there, and there's no reason to believe that the security forces are any closer to catching them. This encounter part of a larger group of operations, obviously, that is broken out. And I agree with you, definitely impacts the idea of normalcy returning to Kashmir. It's only a reminder once again of what really happens here.
All right, Shiv, thanks so much for joining us with all those developing, all the developing news and news of this encounter. We'll continue to get you all the very latest, but moving on for the moment, now we share with you the clearest satellite imagery to be released so far of the Indian strikes on Pakistani air bases. Remember, this is something the defense forces have also been sharing, but now we have accessed these satellite images, which actually show very clearly the extent of the damage caused by the relentless Indian precision strikes deep inside Pakistan. These images we're going to see will include bases of Sukur in Sindh, Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Rahim Yar Khan in southern Punjab, PF base Mushaf in Sargoda, and PF base Shehbaz Jacobabad in northern Sindh as well. Well, let's go across to Vishnu, who will take us through all these images. Over to you, Vishnu.
Let me first tell you why, Gargi, high-resolution satellite imagery is important. Remember, during the surgical strikes of 2016 or during Balakot in 2019, there was no real satellite imagery that came across which decisively proved that India had struck its targets. Not so this time. Now, a lot of the imagery which has been released over the last couple of days is fairly low-resolution imagery. In fact, when we broadcast it over our TV screens, people would have struggled to actually see, oh, look, is there really a hit? What exactly is it? But the images that we are about to show you from Noor Khan in Chaklala, Sargoda, Jacobabad, Rahim Yar Khan, Sukur and Bholari, all those points marked out on your map are the clearest ever. Now, this is Jacobabad. It is a massive hangar over there. If there are any aircraft inside, those would have been destroyed as well. This shows the extent of the Indian strike and the accuracy of the Indian strike in one of the bases. Let's go to the next image, which is of the Bholari Air Base. And this, to my mind, is the clearest of the images that we are releasing. Bholari would have had, some reports indicate, either an AWACS aircraft or a transport aircraft inside, people inside as well. But again, a precision strike going right through the hangar, right through the roof of the hangar and destroying it. Sukur is the next one that we can show you. And again, one of the buildings over here, the one on the right, is entirely flattened. It's been destroyed completely. It's believed to have been a UAV base, but It's this relentless pressure on Pakistan by the Indian armed forces which proved that, look, we can hit your air bases and thereby disable your air force, which went a long way towards persuading them to come to the ceasefire table. That's the key point over here. It was these strikes which sent a message. Let's go to the next one, which is at the Noor Khan Air Base. And this is a key part of their operational hub at Noor Khan, a series of buildings over there destroyed. As you can see on your screen, India used Scalp missiles, BrahMos missiles, and perhaps Hammer missiles as well. We didn't have any of these other than the BrahMos in 2019, but that was not used on that occasion. There's the imagery of the Noor Khan Air Base. We've done the damage to the runway that you can now see in the next image. Let's have that up. The moment, and this is from one of the premier air bases, Musharraf in Sargodha, the moment you make runways non-operational or inoperational, Air Force fighters cannot operate. And the fact that you've done this across quite a few air bases, and it takes hours, if not days, to actually fix the craters which have been formed, that is very significant in terms of the operations of the Pakistan Air Force. Let's take a look now at another image of Musharraf. This is another part of the runway which has been hit. This is, I believe, a deeper crater. Again, this would have meant that this airbase is non-operational. Rahim Yar Khan is another Pakistani airbase. Again, the runway cratered. Fixing this would take time. The structure around it has been weakened. Depending on the number of hits on the runway, that runway's use would also have been a clear factor, a problem for them. So that gives you an idea of what India has been saying over the last several days. It's the pressure, the weight of these strikes that persuaded Pakistan to come to the negotiating table.
All right, Vishnu, thanks so much for joining us with all those details and really taking us through those images of what India really wrought in Pakistan. Now, yesterday, the Prime Minister addressed the nation. It was his first address since the Pahalgam terror attack and India's military response. The Prime Minister declared that Operation Sindoor as a defining shift in India's security doctrine, marking the emergence of a new normal. He also said Operation Sindoor has merely been paused, it's not stopped. With 26 civilians brutally killed, the Prime Minister justified India's assertive retaliation, framing it as morally necessary and strategically calibrated. The Prime Minister said while it was true that the present times were not an age of war, he says this was also not the age of terrorism.
ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने आतंक के खिलाफ लड़ाई में एक नई लकीर खींच दी है, एक नया पैमाना, न्यू नॉर्मल तय कर दिया है। पहला, भारत पर आतंकी हमला हुआ तो मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया जाएगा। हम अपने तरीके से, अपनी शर्तों पर जवाब देकर रहेंगे। हर उस जगह जाकर कठोर कार्रवाई करेंगे जहां से आतंक की जड़ें निकलती हैं। दूसरा, कोई भी न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल भारत नहीं सहेगा। न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेल की आड़ में पनप रहे आतंकी ठिकानों पर भारत सटीक और निर्णायक प्रहार करेगा। तीसरा, हम आतंक की सरपरस्त सरकार और आतंक के आकाओं को अलग अलग नहीं देखेंगे। पाकिस्तानी फौज, पाकिस्तान की सरकार जिस तरह आतंकवाद को खाद पानी दे रहे हैं, वो एक दिन पाकिस्तान को ही समाप्त कर देगा। पाकिस्तान को अगर बचना है तो उसे अपने टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का सफाया करना ही होगा। इसके अलावा शांति का कोई रास्ता नहीं है। भारत का मत एकदम स्पष्ट है। टेरर और टॉक एक साथ नहीं हो सकते। टेरर और ट्रेड एक साथ नहीं चल सकते। और पानी और खून भी एक साथ नहीं बह सकता। मैं आज विश्व समुदाय को भी कहूंगा, हमारी घोषित नीति रही है, अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो टेररिज्म पर ही होगी। अगर पाकिस्तान से बात होगी तो पाक ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर पीओके उस पर ही होगी।
All right, so the Prime Minister stating that no nuclear blackmail will be tolerated anymore, an important address to the nation and more importantly, a statement to the rest of the world. NDTV's Shivaru reports.
Are still a while away from being normal because local administrations are trying to sanitize these villages from unexploded shells or ordnance that may have landed there and pose a grave risk. All of this obviously taking place in the backdrop of Prime Minister Modi's very powerful 23-minute speech delivered to the nation yesterday, where he drew several red lines around Pakistan, one defining that India will no longer tolerate nuclear blackmail and allowing terrorism to flourish in its shadow, and that any talks with Pakistan will only be about terror and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So on the one hand, you've got very decisive, firm, sort of unconditional messaging to Pakistan at the political level, saying that, look, we aren't just about talk. We have shown you by, bombing 12 of your forward air bases, the very heart of the Pakistan military. There's all this talk about, the next possible wave of escalations by India targeting their nuclear command and control elements. There's a lot of misinformation going around about, what the next step from Pakistan itself might be. So I think it is important to acknowledge that while normalcy maybe sort of looms on the horizon, these are two countries still very much in war mode. India certainly is, and you can pretty much bet that Pakistan is, given what they've been subjected to in the last 72 to 96 hours. And therefore, it's very important to acknowledge that things are on a hair trigger. It's going to take a while for the entire war machine to actually wind down. And therefore, these points of contact and the big messaging from the political leadership will be crucial going forward.
So it is exactly a week ago on the intervening night of May 7th and 8th that India chose to give Pakistan a befitting reply for the role it played in orchestrating the murder of 26 men, mostly tourists, in Pahalgam. But now, after the conclusion of these hostilities and the conflict along our western border, today some good news with schools reopening in non-border districts of Jammu and Kashmir. Educational institutions were closed following the escalation of the tensions between India and Pakistan. Well, the children are definitely very, very happy to be back, as one of the students tells NDTV's Nazir, to be back in their second home, their school.
Well, thank goodness it is back to normal and schools in Jammu and Kashmir are open. Though in border districts they still remain closed, but in Srinagar and other parts of the Jammu and Kashmir, schools have been opened except border areas. Schools were closed because of as part of contingency measures, because of the fear when the bombs started falling, and the young kids who had never seen this type of harrowing experience, they had to be sent back. Schools had to be closed. I'm here at DPS Srinagar, and let me talk to the kids who have seen this. And the schools are open. You are smiling.
Yes, we are very happy that all is over and we are back to normal. We are back to our school after not a long time, after a short
I
period.
understand that was a short but a very harrowing.
Yes, we were not certain that will it be over this soon, but Alhamdulillah, it's now all is over and we are back.
Oh, you are happy. And you?
And yeah, I'm happy too. It was just that lot of uncertainty in my mind, and it was full of some suspense that if we could go back to school, appear at exams, and
So
everything
there
would
was
go
that
back to normal.
uncertainty whether you would be able to go back. So
Yeah, there was extreme uncertainty, and we were extremely scared about what was going to happen next and what were to be Kashmir's future.
and this must be first time in your life happening like this.
Yes, this is the first time we have went through this. So we were not sure about this.
Right. And you?
I'm also happy meeting my friends again, and the schools have opened after some days. So I was also scared, a lot scared about what would happen next and what would be the conditions and after how much time would we be able to attend our schools.
Right. So now you are back in school and today is your exam?
Yes.
Yeah. And you?
I'm actually very happy to be back here. After all, this school is our second home, and it is amazing to be here. We were so scared the whole time being at home, whether our school will be all good, our teachers, our friends, if everything is going to be good. But after all, we put our trust in God, and Alhamdulillah, everything is well.
Alhamdulillah, everything is well.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I also felt really happy, joyful because the school reopened now because of after this all terrific experience, and we had to experience this because we are Gen Z and Gen Alpha. We have not experienced it before, these blackouts, these sirens, and I'm really happy that the school reopened.
Right. And you?
I also feel really happy, and I feel really relieved because after such a terrifying moment, schools are open. Now we can finally meet our friends, our teachers, and that was a really terrifying and horror moment for us as we have experienced for the first time. But I feel really relieved that our school is now open.
Okay, you wouldn't talk?
I'm very excited to come to school after a long period of time. I was missing my teachers, my staff, my friends very much. This was a very horrible and terrifying
And what
time.
was when you heard those loud bangs, explosions?
I was very terrified, right? I thought that what is happening right here? I was not able to understand, as I have not never witnessed these types of explosions, these types of drones.
Thankfully, here the schools are open. Even yesterday when DGMO spoke to each other, they not only decided that there should not be a single round of fire, should not be fired, they also decide that there should be a troop reduction from the borders and the forward areas. It has happened after a long time. It means that while there was a war-like situation, both countries fought each other, but at the same time, they are restoring situation, semblance of calm and peace along the borders with lightning speed, and reduction of troops from the borders and the forward areas is a huge move forward.
All right, lovely to hear those young girls returning to school and very excited over that. Now that the India-Pakistan conflict has ended in a sense, as the Prime Minister said, Operation Sindoor is on hold right now, but the opposition parties, remember, have been pushing for a special parliament session so that the government can further elaborate, rather than the Prime Minister's monologue, as the Congress described it, that the government can further elaborate about Operation Sindoor. Also, the left and Congress both have demanded clarity on US claims that have been made during this time. US President Donald Trump claiming that he played a big role. His latest claim even saying that, he had used trade as a means of getting India and Pakistan to declare the ceasefire. The BJP on its part says the Prime Minister sent a direct and firm message to Pakistan.
While the Prime Minister is ready to talk to every world leader about Pakistan, he should also address his own countrymen and the other political parties within the country. It has been over a fortnight, and the Prime Minister chooses monologues over a dialogue with his fellow countrymen and the political parties. The Congress party has been very clear in its stand. We will stand by the government for any decisive decision it takes with respect to the interest of the country and the countrymen.
बात ऐसी ऐतिहासिक विशेष से पार्लियामेंट हम तो इसके खिलाफ नहीं, मगर ये सेंसिटिव इशू है, ये वालों ने डेप्थ डिस्कशन सीरियस इशू है, तो सदन में लेना मुश्किल होता है। मिनिस्टर को भी सब डिस्कस करना इतना आसान नहीं कि फायदे की बात नहीं है।
Prime Minister should have answered certain pertinent questions, which Prime Minister evaded. How the Pahalgam terror attack took place? What was the lapse on our part? Prime Minister did not refer to it. And after that, Sindoor operation, Prime Minister was making big claims, okay, but ceasefire. How ceasefire has been agreed? What was the role played by America? Even now, America claims many things. It is because of Donald Trump and American administration, both India and Pakistan agreed for ceasefire. And what is the truth?
देश के प्रधानमंत्री ने 140 करोड़ आवाम को संबोधित करते हुए सीधा और कड़ा संदेश दिया है। इसमें साफ कह दिया है कि टेररिज्म पर कोई समझौता होने वाला नहीं। युद्ध स्थगित हुआ है, रुका नहीं है। जैसी भाषा में पाकिस्तान समझेगा उसको जवाब मिलेगा। न्यूक्लियर ब्लैकमेलिंग नहीं चलेगी।
Well, let's go across to Aishwarya now for more. And Aishwarya, the opposition continue to push for its demand for a special session. The left and Congress both saying that they want clarity as well on these claims that have been made again and again by the US.
Well, and politics over it have started. Of course, opposition on one side has backed and lauded the Indian Armed Forces for successful Operation Sindoor, but certain questions are being asked by the opposition from the government. It is the Congress party who is stating that after 3 days of Kargil war on 26th of July 1999, it was Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government who constituted a Kargil War Review Committee, and that was headed by K. Subramaniam, who is the father of S. Jaishankar, who is the current External Affairs Minister, and that particular report was submitted to the Parliament, and thorough investigation took place. Whether this government will also do the same, a review committee of sort would be constituted to ensure that the entire country or the parliamentarians got to know that what were the lapses in the intelligence are some questions that the Congress party is asking, and also demanding this government to call an all-party meeting which should be chaired this time by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The opposition also stating that why just before a few minutes when Prime Minister was about to deliver an address to the nation, Donald Trump came out and gave a statement that it was the United States who ensured that there is ceasefire on both the sides, and what sort of agreement does the country have with United States, whether there will be any sort of mediation or any venue has been chosen for the dialogue. All of these answers is something that Prime Minister should give to the country. It is also the lapses that were in the intelligence as far as the Pahalgam terror attack is concerned. That was something that the country wants to know, is something what opposition has been saying. But it is the Bharatiya Janata Party who had lauded the armed forces, the Prime Minister for a decisive action against the terror infrastructures, the terror outlets in Pakistan, and as Prime Minister stated yesterday that terror and talks will not go hand in hand. If any dialogue will happen with Pakistan, that will only be on the terrorism, or it will be on Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So clearly a line has been drawn. There will be no blackmailing of nuclear, and India will give a befitting reply in the future as well if there is any sort of terror activity that is from the Pakistani soil, and a line has been drawn. But remains to be seen whether the government calls a special session of Parliament is being demanded by the opposition, or an all-party meeting that will be chaired by Prime Minister, or a review committee that the government might constitute. These are some demands that only time will tell whether the government ensures that the demands have been are being fulfilled or not.
All right, Aishwarya, thanks so much there. So politics taking place now, and the opposition demanding that special session and clarity on the US role, if any. Now, following the ceasefire understanding between India and Pakistan, New Delhi lifted the temporary closure of various airports, in fact 32 in all, in parts of northern and western India, making them available for regular civil flight operations. But for normalcy to return to these airports and for air operations, it's going to take longer. Air India, IndiGo have issued some travel advisory, and they've cancelled flights to several of these airports, saying in view of latest developments and keeping your safety in mind, certain flights have been cancelled. Tanushka with the details.
So the 32 airports have been reopened. These airports were temporarily closed by the Aviation Ministry, keeping in accord of the situation with the escalating tensions between India and Pakistan. But these 32 airports have been reopened now, as per the Airports Authority of India in its notification. Now, of course, there are still border-sensitive regions such as Jammu, Srinagar, Leh, Amritsar, Chandigarh, and in these areas, precaution is also being maintained. So on one hand, normalcy is being brought back, but precaution is also being maintained in border regions, which is why airlines such as IndiGo and Air India have cancelled their flights to these regions as of today. So for today, these flights stand cancelled to these areas, and for Air India, some other areas in Gujarat as well, such as Porbandar and Rajkot, flights also remain cancelled. However, as of yesterday, the Delhi to Jammu flight and the Delhi to Chandigarh flight for IndiGo flew through without any hiccups. It was only the Delhi to Amritsar flight that made a U-turn back to the capital midway and was diverted in the air. And that we understand was because precautionary measures were taken in Amritsar and in adjoining areas in Punjab, as a complete blackout was called for, and because of which this flight came back to New Delhi. But what we are also understanding at this point is that misinformation regarding the Jammu airport being closed is false. The Jammu airport is also reopened and is completely functional. So the Airports Authority and the Ministry maintains that these 32 airports have reopened. However, the airlines themselves are also, taking decisions as to their own discretion. Air India Express has resumed flight operations to all of these airports and places. And what we also understand is that these, the airport services and operations can't just switch back to normal within overnight. These, logistics take time. So these flight operations and the coordination, the crowd management, reallocation of staff, all of this is gradually underway and will happen soon in a phased out manner.
And now a report from the northeast, where the first Tiranga Yatra that was announced by the BJP is taking place to hail the success of the Indian Armed Forces in Operation Sindoor against Pakistan. This was held in Arunachal Pradesh's Walong. This is close to the China border, with the Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Pema Khandu leading the rally with his cabinet colleagues, as well as local leaders, army personnel, and locals there as well. And the patriotic fervor at this easternmost frontier rekindled the love for the nation and strengthening the collective resolve to stand in unwavering support of our defense forces. So this was announced by the BJP yesterday, that Tiranga Yatras will be taken out in several parts of the country, and the first here taking place so close to the China border. With that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates coming up on the other side. Do stay with us.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate
in depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora.
Welcome back. Let's get you news now from Jammu and Kashmir. And even as we talk of normalcy returning to our border areas, now reports of a gunfight, an encounter underway in the forest of Shopian. This is between security forces, and we're told 4 terrorists are holed up there. Let's go across to Shiv for more on this on this encounter that has just broken out. These visuals that you're seeing are deferred visuals. And Shiv, so what can you share with our viewers at this point?
What we can share at this point of time is that an encounter has broken out in the Zampatri Shukru forest. It's a large area around Shopia, very thick forest, where an exchange of fire has been reported. We're not going to talk about any specifics, but this is a joint operation of the Rashtriya Rifles and the Jammu and Kashmir Police Special Operations Group. There was an initial exchange of fire earlier today, we are told, south of Shopia at an undisclosed location, after which the terrorists managed to escape, and then the encounter broke out once again in the forest of Shopia. It is our understanding that 2 foreign terrorists and maybe 1 or 2 local terrorists are involved in this particular operation, and the exchange of fire is still on. It should be pointed out that there is no confirmation one way or the other about whether there is any link with the Pahalgam massacre. Today happens to be 3 weeks since the Pahalgam attack, and the 3 terrorists who are being hunted for Pahalgam are still out there. No reason to believe or no confirmation whatsoever if this particular encounter in Shopia has anything to do with the Pahalgam terrorists. But ongoing operations have been on, remember, in Jammu and Kashmir, in different parts, in different districts for nearly 3 weeks now. Since the Pahalgam attack, and there is reason to believe that those terrorists have not yet been found. The 3 terrorists, including Hashim Musa of Pakistan and another foreign terrorist, who are still being hunted. This particular operation in Shopia could have something to do with a previous operation. One of the persons involved, one of the local terrorists involved, who is understood to be a tanzeem of Lashkar-e-Taiba, is said to be a person whose house was demolished in the spate of demolitions that took place in the wake of the Pahalgam attack. And therefore, we are still tracking it. It's an evolving story, it's an evolving situation. So we will have specific details once we speak to our sources within the police who are involved in this operation.
All right, Shiv Arur, they're reporting from Gandarbal on this gunfight that has broken out in Shopia. As he's telling us, it's between security forces and 4 terrorists. This even as the border areas are slowly returning to normalcy after the ceasefire. This encounter initially began in Kulgam and then shifted to Shopia. Security forces intercepted the terrorists following an intelligence input. We'll continue to track all these developments. But moving on now to some other news as well, and let's get you, politics from Maharashtra now. And amid speculations of Shiv Sena's Uddhav Thackeray and MNS chief Raj Thackeray reuniting after decades of differences between the 2 cousins, a recent meeting between Raj Thackeray and Maharashtra Minister Uday Samant, a key leader from the Eknath Shinde-led Shiv Sena faction, has raised eyebrows, has definitely caused some speculation. Let's go across to Anuj now for more. And Anuj, so, a lot, the political watchers there in Maharashtra watching the Thackerays closely, but now this meeting with a minister also taking place with Raj Thackeray.
In the early hours of today morning, we saw a senior Shiv Sena minister, Uday Samant, who holds the portfolio of industries and Marathi language, meet Raj Thackeray. Why this is important is because this is the third meeting taking place between these two leaders in the recent months. And more importantly, this is the first meeting of a Shiv Sena leader with Raj Thackeray after an open offer was made by Uddhav Thackeray to Raj Thackeray to join in the hands with the Mahavikas Aghadi, but only on one condition, that Raj Thackeray would have to let go of his old relations with the Gaddars or the traitors of the state, making a very indirect reference to Shinde Sena. However, after that, we saw that both the Supremos, Raj and Uddhav, did not make any comment on that, but the other leaders from the same party spoke. Today, we can see Raj Thackeray is back from his foreign tour. He is going to pull up his socks and is going to start his campaign for the party on a war footing across the state. We know for a fact that he will be in Nashik for the next couple of days for the preparation of the municipal corporation election. And in that regard, this meeting becomes extremely crucial. Although while speaking to the media, Uday Samant made it very clear that this was an extremely formality meeting, just over chai and khichdi. But, the political pundits in the state have already started talking about the possibility of another reunion between Shiv Sena and MNS, but this time with the Shinde Sena. We have to remember that Shiv Sena, or rather the BJP-led Mahayuti, locked horns with Raj Thackeray over the issue of the language row, wherein Raj Thackeray's MNS led the anti-Hindi protest across the western part of Maharashtra, especially in this part of the state, that is in Mumbai city. After that, one could see that the distance between both the parties, that is MNS and BJP, grew a little more, giving or creating vacuum for a space wherein a decision was to be made between Mahavikas Aghadi, especially between Shiv Sena UBT and Raj Thackeray's MNS. But with no further development happening on that regards, we can see that Shiv Sena Shinde faction is trying to act very proactively and trying to make sure that they secure their Marathi votes in Prabhadevi, Worli, Dadar and Girgaon area by joining hands with Raj Thackeray. But what will be the eventual end of this will only become clear once there is an official announcement of the BMC elections.
All right, thanks so much, Anush, for joining us with those details. Shifting now to Tamil Nadu, where a sessions court in Coimbatore convicted all 9 men accused of sexually assaulting and blackmailing several women in Pollachi. It was a trial which had gripped massive public attention back in 2019, given how sordid it was and how extensive as well. Now the justice has found all the men guilty of gang rape and repeated rape. The punishment will be announced. Let's go across to Sam Daniel for more on this story. And Sam, this was an extremely sordid and shocking case of sexual assault, gang rape, blackmail as well. And now all the men convicted, the prosecution, they're pushing for a life sentence.
That's right, Gargi. This particular case had shaken up the entire country in 2019 when it came to light, and a court in Coimbatore an hour ago has convicted all the 9 men accused in this case. They've been found guilty of gang rape and repeated rape of women. And these men had at that point in time sexually assaulted these young women, including a young college student, video recorded the act and blackmailed them for repeated sexual assaults. And so far, 8 young women had come forward to complain. It was a challenging case because the prosecution relied only on the video footage available, and they had to validate them through forensic investigation. And not a single witness had turned hostile, and all have been found guilty. The prosecution has sought life till death, and the advocates for the accused, they demanded leniency, citing their young age, they are unmarried, and that they have elderly parents. And the punishment would be awarded at 12. And this has been welcomed by women rights groups who have been championing the cause, and they demand compensation for these women besides government job. At that point in time, in 2019, the AIADMK was in power. At that time, the ruling party had then faced allegations of attempting to cover up and also delay in filing an FIR. At that point, the party had expelled one of the accused who was a party member, but distanced itself from any other larger role in the case. Now all eyes would be on what the court has to say in terms of the award of punishment, Gargi.
All right, Sam, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. And now shifting our focus to Punjab, where 14 people have died after consuming spurious liquor. This is in 4 villages of Amritsar district. The deceased include 3 youth from Bhangali and Marari Kalan villages and 2 from Tariwal village. So disturbing news really with spurious liquor once again, causing the deaths of locals there in Punjab. Let's just listen into what the police had to say.
देखिए जी, हमें कल रात को अराउंड 10 हमें एक इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है कि यहाँ पे स्प्यूरियस लिकर पी के लोगों की डेथ्स होनी शुरू हो गई हैं। हमें जैसे इन्फॉर्मेशन मिलती है हम तुरंत कार्रवाई करते हुए हमने जो यहाँ के लोकल जो इन्फॉर्मेशन के मुताबिक 4 लोग थे उनको हमने इमीडिएटली राउंड अप कर लिया। उनसे फिर हमने पता करा तहकीकात में कि यहाँ पे जो मेन सप्लायर है यहाँ का प्रभजीत सिंह, जो पंगाली गांव का है रहने वाला, पंगवा गांव का रहने वाला है, उसको हमने अरेस्ट किया। फिर उससे पूछा तो यहाँ का जो किंग पिन है सप्लायर साहब सिंह है, राजस्थान का रहने वाला, उसको भी हमने राउंड अप कर लिया। हमारी तरफ से सिविल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के साथ डोर टू डोर जाया जा रहा है और जितने लोग इसमें अफेक्टेड हो सकते हैं उनको भी हम काबू करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं।
All right, returning our focus to the situation after Operation Sindoor, and the ceasefire was declared. But remember, reviews will continue. And now our Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, there you can see those visuals, holding a meeting with the tri-services chiefs. And this is to review the security situation and what is taking place along the border, even as normalcy is somewhat returning. Though, remember, there have been reports of drone sightings last night in the Samba sector. And today, there is an encounter underway in Shopia. So these review, meetings will continue for a while now. Let's go across to Aishwarya for more. Aishwarya, give us the details. The Raksha Mantri there reviewing security with the tri-services chiefs.
Well, as Prime Minister stated yesterday, that Operation Sindoor is ongoing and it is just postponed but not stopped. It is, of course, Indian Armed Forces, which is on alert, and now today it is Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh reviewing the situation with Chief of Defence Staff, Army Chief, Navy Chief, Vice Chief and Defence Secretary at the South Block over the situation of Operation Sindoor. It is, of course, Indian Armed Forces who had been told to remain alert on the international border and line of control to oversee the situation as far as Pakistan's action on the border areas are concerned. Remember, yesterday after the DGMO level talks, it was decided to de-escalate the situation, to withdraw the forces from the international border, and it was also decided that no firing would be exchanged and between India and Pakistan along with the line of control, be it land, air or sea. And therefore the reason perhaps remaining on alert are Indian Armed Forces. It is Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh who is currently reviewing Operation Sindoor, the successful operation that was done by Indian Armed Forces at the South Block as of now.
All right, so Defence Minister Security Review meeting, and Aishwarya, this comes even as, there's a slow return to normalcy along the border areas. Schools in non-border areas of Jammu and Kashmir have opened, but as we've been reporting here on NDTV, there has been, an encounter underway in Shopia last night. There were reports of, drone sightings as well, though we were told there were very few drones and this situation was being watched closely.
Well, that's right. In fact, the situation still remains tense between India and Pakistan. Of course, there is a ceasefire bilateral agreement between India and Pakistan. There's been an understanding which has come into place as far as India and Pakistani armed forces were never an aggressor in the entire face-off between India and Pakistan. Retaliation that was done, and it was in response to what action had been taken by the Pakistani armed forces. Although after normalcy in several parts of Jammu and Kashmir along with the line of control and the international border areas of Punjab, Rajasthan as well, but Indian armed forces remains watchful. They are completely on alert, as Prime Minister stated yesterday, that Operation Sindoor is just temporarily postponed. It is an ongoing operation which will continue to go on, and it is a new normal as far as India's policy is concerned against terrorism. If they act and if any terror activity would be again done on the Indian soil, then a befitting reply will be given, and therefore now instructions being given, the review meeting as far as what India has achieved as far as the objectives of Operation Sindoor is concerned. It is Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh who is chairing an all-important meeting at the South Block in which we can see in those visuals Chief of Defence Staff, Army Chief, Navy Chief, Vice Air Chief and Defence Secretary briefing Defence Minister Rajnath Singh.
All right, thanks so much, Aishwarya, for joining us with those details. So that review meeting currently taking place with the Defence Minister. Well, moving on to other news now. And India's informed the World Trade Organization of its proposal to impose retaliatory tariffs on select US-made goods, aiming to counter Washington's continued levies on Indian steel, aluminium exports. This, according to reports, it's in a notice dated Monday. India said the move would take the form of suspending concessions and increasing import duties on specific American products. So that is the big news coming in on the tariffs front, and India proposing these retaliatory tariffs. One will have to see how the US will react to something like this. The proposed suspension of concessions or other obligations takes the form of an increase in tariffs on selected products originating in the United States. Earlier, we spoke to Rishabh Bhatnagar for more.
What it is some sort of a toughening of India's stance on the global sort of trade platform is what we're seeing here. We're seeing that despite an active bilateral trade agreement negotiation, we've chosen to sort of oppose US's retaliatory duties at a platform like the WTO, like the World Trade Organization. Again, this is not the first time that India has done something like this. In 2018, during Trump's first term, when his administration hit at India with tariffs, by 2019, India had responded with retaliatory tariffs, and those were very, very broad-ranging as well. So we've chosen that same playbook this time around as well. We've gone and said that we don't appreciate the tariffs that we've put on our steel and aluminium exports, and we've gone ahead and chosen to retaliate. Again, this proposal, it's currently only at the proposal stage. These might take effect after 30 days. There's still no clarity on that. If the US reaches out for negotiations, or if there is some sort of a mediation of this, then these tariffs will not be implemented. But so far, as of by 8th June is when we can expect these tariffs to roll out if there is no sort of mediation coming in from both sides.
International news, and US President Donald Trump will arrive in Saudi Arabia today, kicking off a diplomatic and business-focused tour of the Gulf that also includes Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. This marks Donald Trump's first major overseas trip since starting his second term in office. Let's go across to Vishal now for more. And Vishal, tell us more about what's on the cards during this trip to some of the richest nations here by Donald Trump.
Well, the biggest thing to be looked at here is the $1 trillion investment that the US administration wants Saudi Arabia to, invest in the US. But the fact to be noted here is that that's as much as the country's last year's GDP. So that experts are saying that is highly unlikely to happen. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia has offered about $600 billion worth of investment. Even that, experts say, won't be likely. So other than that, there are several other things lined up, such as there could be discussions on expansion, actually inking of the US-Saudi civil nuclear deal. That could be one of the biggest topics to be discussed. Then there is also possibility of a big US chip export deal being signed between both the countries. These are all reports. Nothing has been spoken about this from the either administrations. And also there could be some discussions on the Gaza ceasefire deal, which has been suspended in the last 2 to 3 months. Also, there's also another angle to this whole visit, which is that he has sort of snubbed Israel this time. He is not visiting Israel, and he's visiting 3 countries, but a meeting with Netanyahu is not on the schedule, and some reports suggest that Israel at this moment doesn't really have anything to offer to US, and that is why he could have snubbed Israel.
All right, Vishal, thanks so much for joining us with those details. So President Trump begins this tour, this 3-nation tour in the Gulf. With that, we'll slip into a short break. More news and updates on the other side. Do stay with us.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
After days of shutdown, schools and colleges in non-border districts of Jammu and Kashmir have reopened. Meanwhile, border districts stay shut due to security concerns.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaroop, only on NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV. I'm Gargi Rawat. Stay with us for all the big developments. A review meeting taking place with the Defence Minister and Tri-Services Chiefs. We'll get you all those details. First, a look at the headlines we're tracking. A gunfight has broken out in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian between security forces and terrorists. It's said that 4 terrorists are holed up in the forest there. NDTV now brings you the clearest satellite imagery of the destruction wrought by Indian strikes inside Pakistan. These are the strikes that brought Pakistan to the ceasefire table. We'll get you all these details. A Sessions Court in Coimbatore convicts all the 9 men accused of sexually assaulting and blackmailing several women in Tamil Nadu's Pollachi, a trial that had gripped massive public attention in 2019. And the CBSE declares the Class 12 board exam results. Overall pass percentage is 88.39%. That's marginally up from last year. And once again, the girls have done better than the boys. Well, let's get you our top story now. And even as some semblance of normalcy returns to Jammu and Kashmir and schools have reopened in some parts of the border areas, however, now news coming in of a gunfight that is taking place in Shopian between security forces and terrorists is what we have learned. Let's go across to our reporters. Nazir joins us from Srinagar and Shiv joins us from Gandarbal. Nazir, first to you, what are you hearing? What can we share with our viewers right now?
Well, gunshots were heard, and there are multiple reports which are coming. Some say one militant may have been killed, but the fact is we are waiting for an official confirmation. I spoke to a senior police officer. He said that security force had launched this operation. It is a forest area and gunshots have been heard. One thing should be made very clear. It is not linked to the border situation where this peace is prevailing, no ceasefire violation for the last 2 days. And it's also not linked to any Pahalgam killings, innocent killings on April 22nd. That is a separate operation which has been going on for last 3 weeks now. Encounters are not new in Jammu and Kashmir, and it's not, militancy is not going to be over and overnight, and unfortunately not anytime soon. There are more than 100 militants who are still active here. So operation is on. The security force on an average in Kashmir Valley launch 100 operations. Sometimes they get contact, like in this case, what are reports that at least 3 or 4 militants or terrorists were in this particular area, forest area. So there was a firing incident, but so far officially, no confirmation if any of the militant has been killed in this encounter so far.
Right, Shiv, as Nazir said, encounters are nothing new, and this fight against terrorists continues. Security forces remain on alert. Intelligence is used to track many of these terrorists who continue to be here, pushed in through the LOC, and that has been one of the big issues that India has been facing. But given that it comes just after the ceasefire, obviously a lot of concern with news of firing taking place there in the forests of Shopian.
That is correct. This is an encounter that is part of the ongoing operations against various terror groups operating from Jammu and Kashmir with sponsorship and training from Pakistan. In this particular encounter that has broken out in the Zampatri Shukru forests of Shopian, and we have permission to tell some details to our viewers, but not any of the ongoing details because it is a live operation. There are at least 2 Pakistani terrorists said to be involved in this encounter, and 1 local terrorist who is a Lashkar-e-Taiba member who happens to be one of the persons whose house was destroyed in that spate of crackdown and actions post the Pahalgam attack. There is no link or confirmation whatsoever as to whether this has anything to do with Pahalgam directly or indirectly, so we will not be conjecturing or speculating on that. But do remember that we are right now on this day 3 weeks since the Pahalgam encounter, and the 3 terrorists understood to be involved in the murder of 26 civilians on the 22nd of April are still at large. There have been continuous ongoing operations in different parts of Jammu and Kashmir for the last 21 days looking for those terrorists, but there is no official word on whether there has been any success. They certainly haven't been detained so far, and it doesn't look like there is any real sense of where they actually might be. Now, South Kashmir, where Shopian falls and where this encounter is taking place, is one of the places where the Pahalgam terrorists may have made their way to in order to get some kind of a protection. Remember, Shopian, Pulwama, South Kashmir is considered to be, a grey zone, a hotbed as far as militancy and terrorism is concerned, overground workers are concerned, and therefore there has continued to be a big spotlight there. About 11 days ago, when we were in Shopian, in fact, there was an encounter in the Yarwan forest, many forests surrounding Shopian, which is, of course, the apple capital of Jammu and Kashmir. This particular encounter, like Nazir was reporting, we've been hearing that one of the terrorists has been shot dead, but there's no confirmation yet from the police. We are still awaiting a full update on that, which we'll get shortly. We're on our way, in fact, to Shopian, and we'll be able to report from there on the ground.
All right. Thanks so much, Nazir and Shiv, for joining us there with the very latest. We'll continue to track all those developments. But here in Delhi, Defense Minister Rajnath Singh is currently in a security review meeting with the tri-services chiefs all there. You can see that photograph that has been released of this meeting that is taking place. Let's go across to Aishwarya now for more on this. Aishwarya, what details can you share regarding this meeting? And this, of course, is part of the meeting that will continue. As the Prime Minister said yesterday, Operation Sindoor is halted. It's on pause right now.
Well, that's right. In fact, at South Block, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is chairing that high-level meeting in which Tri-Services Chief CDS along with the Defence Secretary is giving briefing. This is a review meeting regarding Operation Sindoor. Remember, yesterday, as you rightly mentioned, Prime Minister stated that Operation Sindoor is on hold right now, and it is an ongoing process. This is India's new policy as far as terrorism is concerned, tackling the terrorist, and how India is going to continue with this new normal. It is, of course, today a series of meetings going on. I must tell you that where I'm reporting is 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, just behind me, Prime Minister's official residence. And National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has just arrived along with few senior officials as well. And a high-level meeting is still underway at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. So NSA Ajit Doval meeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi after yesterday's PM address to the nation, in which PM drawn the straight line that no further terror activity would be tolerated on India's soil, and India is ready to give a befitting reply to the perpetrators of terrorism, and India will not distinguish between the Pak-sponsored terror and their government in the future. And India will continue to hit hard on terror, and that's the message to the world as well that has been given. On the other side, it is, of course, at the South Block, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh chairing that high-level security meeting, a review of Operation Sindoor as to what India has achieved, the objectives of Operation Sindoor being successfully achieved.
Aishwarya, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh chairing that meeting. But Shiv, we also have news now which we can break about the Prime Minister morning visit to the Adampur Air Base where he met with the Air Force personnel, interacted with Jawans. We have visuals also which we'll just put up in a moment. But tell us more about this, quick trip by the Prime Minister, morale boosting visit there.
Very, very big visit of the Prime Minister to the Adampur Air Base in Punjab. Remember, Adampur had come under attack repeatedly by Pakistan drones. There had been a huge amount of misinformation from Pakistan's side that the Adampur Air Base had either been destroyed or damaged or compromised. And here you have Prime Minister Modi, a day after his big speech to the nation, visiting the Adampur Air Base. The Adampur Air Base is a frontline air base not very far from the international border. It is an airbase that is obviously a military airbase which has combat aircraft squadrons that have been involved in the ongoing operations, including Operation Sindoor. And the pictures of Prime Minister at the Adampur airbase are absolutely significant. They are dripping with symbolism because this is an airbase that not only participated in the operations, but one that the Pakistan Air Force not only directly tried to target, but they also got their cyber warriors to try and paint an image of destruction and damage. Yesterday, you had the armed forces generals at their briefing say that every single airbase of the Indian Air Force is completely operational and ready to jump back into operations. And barely 24 hours later, Prime Minister Modi is at the Adampur Air Base. Pictures of him interacting with air warriors. Very nice picture of people taking selfies with him there. The Adampur Air Base is one that has frontline squadrons of combat aircraft that are pushed into operations at very, very short notice. Extremely sensitive airbase, like I said, that's very close to the IB. Clearly, the Prime Minister choosing Adampur for a very, very specific reason, to send out a message that not only is all well, but this is an airbase that is operationally ready to leap back into the fight. Remember, the Prime Minister yesterday had said Operation Sindoor is not over. Military operations against Pakistan have only paused right now because of the understanding that has been reached between the two countries. But what the Prime Minister is sort of radiating out with these images coming in, including that very telling image of the Prime Minister. I want to read out what it actually says in that picture. It says, "Why enemy pilots don't sleep well," in front of a picture of I think that's a MiG-29. There is a MiG-29 squadron that is based in Adampur, is very, very symbolic. It sends out a huge message. This is messaging 101. Mind games being played from the Indian side as well, for the Prime Minister to pose in front of that model of a MiG-21 saying why our enemies don't sleep well. I think Pakistan would definitely have got the message.
That's right, Shiv, and we'll just try to show our viewers, what is written on top. It's getting blocked by our bans there, but very significant, this visit of the Prime Minister to Adampur especially. This is India's second largest Air Force base, and this area has been on edge for the last couple of days, ever since Operation Sindoor. And Shiv, as you pointed out, there were all these, reports on social media of all kinds of attacks in Adampur. Yes, there were some drones, that drone offensive that one saw taking place there, and even in the fields there have been drones that have fallen there that were countered very effectively by our own defense system. So the fact that the Prime Minister chose to visit Adampur, and that other photograph is also very heartening, the one where he's surrounded by the Air Force personnel. But yes, so now with normalcy returning here, the Prime Minister sending out this very strong message, visiting Adampur, a base of ours, a very one of the second largest bases, and this whole area has been on edge ever since these hostilities began, isn't it, Shiv?
Absolutely correct. I couldn't agree with that assessment more. These images are very, very important, not just to the Air Force itself, but also to the families of each and every one of the officers and airmen that you actually see in those pictures interacting with the Prime Minister. I wanted to add another very interesting nugget that may have, missed the attention of our viewers around the world, and that is that China has been trying to help Pakistan sell the idea that damage has been inflicted to air bases like Adampur. And it has come to our attention that China has been peddling either doctored satellite images or old images from before Operation Sindoor, when some kind of reconstruction work was taking at the base, to make it seem like Pakistan had actually managed to penetrate and damage the Adampur base. But that got busted by many different fact checkers and satellite imagery analysts like Damien Simon, whose imagery we use here on NDTV. So China also stands exposed as far as the Adampur base is concerned. And Pakistan clearly needed doctored and fake satellite images in order to, keep its domestic population in the fantasy land of having somehow inflicted damage on India. The truth is there to see. Not only has there been no damage whatsoever at the Adampur base, but everyone is on complete operational alert. It's so lovely to see officers and airmen in their flying overalls, and work clothes, all there on the tarmac with the Prime Minister, all of the air warriors, crowding around the Prime Minister. Remember, Narendra Modi always tries and makes it a point to visit military facilities, no matter what the occasion, whether it is New Year or Diwali or whatever. This is, of course, a different kind of occasion. India has just made military history in terms of launching airstrikes deep inside enemy territory in Pakistan. Now, we don't know for sure, and we will never, of course, conjecture on whether Adampur combat squadrons were involved in those strikes. But I'm going to go ahead and guess that, in a whole nation approach, when the Indian Air Force was fully involved, all of our frontline air bases must have been involved in some way or the other, and so too would have been Adampur. So this is huge hugely symbolic. It's hugely significant. It means very much to the Air Force. It means an enormous amount to the families of officers and airmen, who would be back home in different parts of the country, spending sleepless nights, worrying about, the safety of their, beloved family members who are on the front lines at frontline air bases like Adampur. And believe me when I say, for them to see the Prime Minister there with the warriors, with the air warriors, sends out an incredible message. And I'm talking about just domestically, so you can imagine what this message sends out to Pakistan. At this point of time, Pakistan, look at the contrast between the two sides. On Pakistan, you've got 12 air bases with missile holes and debris and destruction in them. And here you've got the Prime Minister in these shiny pictures that have been released by the Prime Minister's office of him with a completely undamaged and intact Adampur Air Force Base, which Pakistan had claimed had been damaged, but is clearly not.
Base did play a crucial role in the India-Pakistan war back in 1965, and so now to have the Prime Minister there, given the kind of false information that was spread regarding Adampur, and also given the kind of tensions along the border, to have the Prime Minister visiting this base and interacting with the personnel. Just take a look at those visuals. This, even as normalcy is slowly returning, as we're saying, to these border areas. The Prime Minister in his speech yesterday did, state out those new red lines as well, as far as India goes vis-a-vis the terror that emanates from Pakistan. So Shiv, even as this update, we're looking at these visuals and reports of the Prime Minister's visit to Adampur. There is developments in Shopian encounter as well, which you were reporting on, and now NDTV's Nazir Masoodi confirming that 3 terrorists have been killed in that Shopian encounter. We will get you more on that story, but Shiv, coming back to Shiv, coming back to in Delhi, we have the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh currently holding a review meeting with the tri-services chiefs, and I was wondering how come the Prime Minister wasn't holding that meeting, given that that has been what we've seen these last couple of days. And then you bring us this news that the Prime Minister actually on this visit to the Adampur airbase.
And that's also the reason why the Chief of the Air Staff is not in that meeting with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh. Neither the Prime Minister, who could have been heading the meeting, but if you notice in the picture, you've got the Army Chief there, the Navy Chief there, the CDS there, but you've got the Vice Chief of the Air Staff, not Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh, the Chief of the Air Staff, because he obviously was accompanying Prime Minister as is protocol to the Adampur Air Base. The other people in those pictures who would have met Prime Minister would be the base commander of the Adampur base, the squadron commanders and others, the operation chiefs of Adampur, who would have all played a key role in Operation Sindoor. I have no doubts about that. The specifics, of course, are under a shroud of secrecy and are classified in the way they should be, and we will not speculate about them. But this sends out such an incredibly important message at this point of time. It radiates strength. It busts much of the misinformation that has been coming in from Pakistan, where they specifically focused on Adampur. And let me just, dwell for a moment on why the Prime Minister has chosen to go to Adampur. And, if people are curious, why not Pathankot or Amritsar or even Srinagar, which were all under quote-unquote attack from Pakistan, and which Pakistan had suggested had been damaged in the drone attacks, etc. Adampur is one base in Punjab that Pakistan had repeatedly tried to project as having been damaged, having been compromised, scores of aircraft destroyed, personnel killed, the squadrons have been depleted there, huge amount of destruction, and that the airbase will take years and years to be resurrected again. And then pop come these pictures from the Adampur airbase, where you've got the Prime Minister interacting with, shiny, happy air warriors. They don't look tired at all. These are very professional military personnel of the Indian Air Force. I'm sure that each and every every one of them has had some kind of role to play or other in Operation Sindoor. Because remember, when it's a frontline base, not very far from the sphere of the action, you are plugged in no matter what. You may not have a direct role in what is happening, and I'm sure Adhampur actually did have a direct role. Whether it is air defense, whether it is fighter aircraft, whether it is radar control, whether it is support operations, whether it is logistics, whether it is a staging ground for more fighter operations. Adhampur is a key base, and like you rightly said, it has been a key base, across the spectrum of India-Pak conflict, from the 1965 war to the 1971 war. It has tried, Pakistan has tried to attack this base in the past because it is also very strategic and not very far from the international border. So Prime Minister Modi picking Adhampur to visit instead of any other base is no coincidence, believe me, because this is the place where the Pakistan Air Force had its eye. They did want to try and cause maximum damage here. Wave after wave of drones and loitering munitions did try and land at this base, but all and each and every one of them was thwarted. So clearly the Prime Minister knows more than a thing or two about why Adhampur is the place he needed to be today.
That's right, and we're also joined by Nazir for more. And Nazir, a big message there by Prime Minister, as Shiv was telling us, the reason Adhampur was chosen was because of the kind of misinformation and lies from Pakistan. And even as Operation Sindoor is on hold, as told to us by the Prime Minister yesterday in his address, the tension continues, but a big, boost for the morale of security forces with this visit by the Prime Minister.
Well, actually, Prime Minister is translating his words into action when in his address to nation he saluted armed forces, Air Force, Army, Navy. Then he's going on the ground and saluting them actually. And then there is a bigger message that Adhampur Air Base is functional, as functional that Prime Minister can land there and meet with the Air Force officers and Jawans, airmen there, and show it is functional, nothing has happened. Contrary to the claims and the propaganda emanating from Pakistan that Adhampur base was hit and there was S-4 air defense system that has been targeted and all that. This is the message to everybody. Look, this is the base where even Prime Minister can land. He is there meeting with the airmen and, as I said, translating his words into action. And it's not just the personnel there at the Adhampur Air Force airmen. It's also to all the security force personnel, Army, this Air Force and Navy, sending the message, I'm with you on the ground. It was not that Prime Minister was doing meeting with the 3 service chiefs in the rooms. He's going there, seeing what exactly has been accomplished by the Air Force, Indian Air Force, and it is a tribute to all the entire Air Force across the country, be it in Srinagar, here in Srinagar, Air Force Station Srinagar, or Avantipora, or Udhampur, or Pathankot, or the Adhampur, wherever. So it is essentially a political leadership which actually showing the soldiers you are not alone. We are together that time during that fight, and we are here coming and saluting you, which he did in his address to the nation. So essentially these were the places, these air bases, which actually where the attacks on Pakistan was launched. Not only attacks were launched at their air bases, at their militant, these headquarters, whether it was Jash, Lashkar, Murdiki, or Bahawalpur, or then in POK's Kotli or Muzaffarabad or other places. It's also these places which have had a robust and an integrated air defense mechanism which actually foiled most of the Pakistani air attacks or the missile attacks or drone attacks. These are the places, these are the Air Force stations which have played key role in India's defense mechanism, and shows India's defense mechanism is impregnable in most of the places. There was some damage to the infrastructure, which Air Force had said that for example in Srinagar, medical facility of the Air Force station or the schools were damaged. But when it comes to the functionality of these Air Force stations, it is very much there, and Prime Minister visit to Adhampur actually explains and gives a big message to the whole world.
So for viewers who may just be tuning in, that's the big breaking news right now. The pictures you're seeing on your screens is Prime Minister Narendra Modi today visiting Punjab's Adampur Air Base, the second largest air base in the country, interacting with soldiers, even being briefed by officers there days after the ceasefire. And Shiv, as we were, talking about the significance of Adampur being chosen by the Prime Minister for this visit, because on that intervening night when we saw, the hostilities between India and Pakistan on May 9th and 10th, there were all these reports of Adampur having been targeted by Pakistan. Yes, there were drones that did target Adampur. That is correct. But however, there was no destruction or any sort of hit on the Adampur air base, even though this was spread quite extensively on social media. And Shiv, it's quite stark to see the difference between how India and our services, our defense services, have displayed the exactly and very, in a very calm manner, the kind of destruction we wrought in Pakistan on air bases there. They've not been able to show us anything besides this misinformation online.
That's a huge point, and I'm so glad you made it. Remember that, Pakistan's misinformation is usually never very difficult to bust. But I think what you've basically seen is the Prime Minister embody perhaps the most epic fact check of Pakistani lies that has ever been, attempted by anyone here in this country. Pakistan has been releasing image after image, satellite image after satellite image of destruction at Adampur. And here you've got the senior most politician of the country, the Prime Minister of the country, landing there. Believe me, nobody can land at a damaged base. The SPG would never allow the Prime Minister to land at a base if it was even, a 0.25% compromised or had been compromised by weapons sent in from Pakistan. So the very presence of the Prime Minister there is a huge fact check, first of all. It completely busts the misinformation as far as damage to the base is concerned. It confirms, on the contrary, that Adampur is fully ready for war. It also confirms to me, on the side of my mind, that Adampur had a very, very key role to play in Operation Sindoor in terms of, support operations as well as frontline operations using combat aircraft. And I think the contrast that you just pointed out is very, very important. The fact that Pakistan has shown no imagery of what has happened at its air bases. All we have are satellite images and battle damage visuals that have been largely put out, by the Indian Armed Forces across two briefings or by open source satellite imagery experts. Vishnu put out a few images earlier today by Maxar as well. Pakistan has done nothing of the sort because the picture there, unlike in Adampur, is a reality. The damage there is real, it's visible, it's not doctored. You can't fake that. And therefore, putting out those images would be very, very difficult. You can't hide, the damage caused by a BrahMos or a Scalp missile in a day or two. Adampur, the same thing actually applies. If it was compromised or damaged in any way, believe me, no force on earth could have gotten it ready in a couple of days for a visit by the Prime Minister. So anyone who thinks that this is optics or this is, this has been staged in order to send out some kind of a mind game message or psychological operations is wrong. I have visited the Adampur base many times in the past. And like you said, it's the second largest Air Force base in the country, huge historic significance, and has recently obviously also made history as part of Op Sindoor. So I feel really, really well chosen by the Prime Minister. He's ticked a lot of boxes by choosing this base to visit today.
That's right, and not to say that there wasn't, panic in these areas and in all the areas over these last 4 days before the ceasefire was finally declared in Adampur as well. People had to stay indoors. There was blackout. There was attempts at, the drone attacks and even talks of, a missile being attempted. But the defense system, India's defense system in all these bases really withstood all these aggressions from Pakistan. And that is something that our forces have also told us time and again, right, Shiv?
Absolutely correct. The incredible valor of the Indian Armed Forces is so manifest in some of these images that have come out that have been released by the Prime Minister. I'm hoping that there will be some video footage as well. But remember, that this is an Air Force base that's in the middle of a live operation. Let's All of our viewers, Gargi, that Operation Sindoor, as the Prime Minister himself reminded, has only paused. It has not stopped. So if there are any escalations from the Pakistan side, you better believe the fact is going to be back in the operations, just like it was during the initial 3 days of Operation Sindoor. So it is sent.
Try and restore that audio line with Shiv, but let's go to Nazir now. And Nazir, so the optics of the Prime Minister visiting Adampur Air Base, and as Shiv was telling us, there were several air bases and areas all along the western border that have seen these very stressful nights and have been on high alert. But the symbolism of visiting Adampur, and also the message that it will send out not just in Adampur but across the western front, and to all our services, to their families as well. A morale boosting visit by the Prime Minister, also showing that the Pakistani lies will not hold.
Well, as the armed forces have accomplished their mission, it's now the responsibility of the leadership to show the gratitude. And after, as I said earlier, address to the nation, Prime Minister is now translating his words into action, going there, meeting the airmen, and what he said, saluting them. And why Adampur is very significant, not just its air base, the largest air base in India, particularly in the western front. It is also what was in the news and the propaganda was S-400 defense system, air defense system. So Pakistan, we have hit that. The fact is, S-400 defense system is something which can actually track over 300 targets and then engage 36 targets simultaneously. So that is the capacity and the importance of this. And this Adampur is housing that, and it is being used from there. And all these air defense systems, India's integrated air defense system was activated for 4 days till the time this ceasefire was announced. And still they have been in operational readiness. And Prime Minister going there, showing gratitude and telling the servicemen and the country also, because when there was war-like situation, it was not just armed force, but every Indian was on the side of armed forces and boasting their morale and supporting them. And as Prime Minister said, cutting across party lines, whether it was opposition, whether it was any religious groups, social groups, everybody was on the same page. And perhaps the Prime Minister represent that, to show that gratitude and visiting them, and also showing how these air bases are functional. Well, India has clearly said that how many air bases they have destroyed or damaged in Pakistan, including important air bases like Noor Khan, so these are and several other air bases which have been hit, including including in Islamabad. So when you have all these are Rahim Yar Khan Air Base. So these are very important, significant air bases which have been hit. On the other side, what Pakistan was talking about, Adampur Air Base, hitting that, damaging it, and hitting S-400 system. Prime Minister's visit is actually debunking that propaganda. When Prime Minister can land at the air base, Adampur Air Base, that settles this issue. That's it is functional. It is so functional, so perfect that Prime Minister can land at this air base. That is the bigger message. And also then to every airman, every soldier on the border, that when Prime Minister goes and meets armed forces there, it is clearly showing how government and the leadership of the country is firmly behind the armed forces and celebrates the accomplishments armed forces have made during this limited war-like situation with Pakistan, where India has clearly said that we have hit the targets, whether it was terror targets at 9 sites, 3 in Punjab province, 6 in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and then when Pakistan tried to target India's defense establishment, including air bases, India hit back strongly and hit Pakistan's military installations and air bases. And when Pakistan said these air bases they have hit, destroyed or damaged, Prime Minister going there today and showing to the world that this air base, largest air base, is safe as Prime Minister can land there, and the assets, air assets, are very much safe as well. So that is the bigger message, and also the showing the resolve of the country, not just the armed forces, what they have achieved, and what Prime Minister said in his yesterday's address to the nation, talking about terror and trade cannot go together. Blood and water cannot flow together.
Nazir, I'd just like to, sorry to interrupt you, I'd just like to read out what the Prime Minister has posted. In fact, he has shared more photographs as well, and we've put those up on your screen. The Prime Minister has posted on social media that earlier this morning, I went to AFS Adampur Air Force Station and met our brave air warriors and soldiers. It was a very special experience to be with those who epitomize courage, determination, and fearlessness. India is eternally grateful to our armed forces for everything they do for our nation. So that is what the Prime Minister posted as he visited Adampur this morning, and he's shared more photographs. Shiv, back with us. And Shiv, it's really heartening to see the kind of excitement and joy on the faces of these Air Force men with the Prime Minister's visit.
You can only imagine what's going through the mind of these air warriors. I mean, they are literally in an operational area in the middle of a live operation, a historic military operation, nothing routine about Operation Sindoor. And you have the Prime Minister landing up. I am telling you for a fact that owing to security concerns, most of the people there at the base would not have known that the Prime Minister is coming. Only the top commanders, the base commander and others, on a need-to-know basis would have known that the Prime Minister was actually coming. This sends out a huge message at so many levels. A, he's with the forces, he's spending time with our soldiers, airmen who are on the front line, actually doing the heavy lifting of, imposing punitive measures on Pakistan. Number two, he's sending out the message that the Adampur Air Force Base is in ship shape, completely ready and involved in operations as it has been since the beginning of Operation Sindoor. C, he's sending a message to the families of Indian Air Force personnel saying, I'm with your men and women. You don't have to worry about them. I've got their back because I'm going to be there personally. D, this is a message to China. China has been peddling misinformation, saying, giving doctored satellite images to Pakistan for their domestic audience to suggest that the Adampur Air Base has been put out of order, has been damaged beyond recognition, and will take years to be resurrected once again. And finally, this is a message, I think, to India at large, to say this is not over. This is an operation that's still very much on, and that the Prime Minister stands with, with the forces. I have been in frontline areas, when there have been dignitary visits and VVIP visits of this kind. Usually journalists are not allowed there when these things are happening, but they do get to interact with soldiers, warriors, air warriors and sailors after the Prime Minister has left. And there is no exaggerating how valuable and how much it means to people in uniform when they are visited, by the Prime Minister or the President. It is a huge symbolic gesture. It means very much to them. It may not seem like much to many people, but it means everything to those, who've put their shoulder to the wheel to protect the country, and especially at a time when the Indian Air Force has conducted India's most ambitious, audacious, risky and impactful non-war military operation. These images of the Prime Minister that he's put out visiting the frontline Adampur Air Force Base sends out all the right messages. It positively radiates psychological mind games as far as Pakistan is concerned. And I'm going to go ahead out on a limb and say, other than the Indian missiles landing in Pakistan Air Force bases, this is perhaps the biggest message India could possibly have sent out.
That's right, and just let's take a look at these visuals again. The Prime Minister sharing more of them. He posted, in fact, on social media about his visit to Adampur this morning, and just look at the joy on the faces of our Air Force men there, our air warriors. And Adampur especially chosen when they say, a picture means more than 1,000 words. This really is, signifying that. It's showing us exactly that, to have the Prime Minister at this border Air Force base, interacting with the Air Force men, with the air warriors, at a time when there's been so much tension and anxiety in the country during the time of the conflict along our western border. Many of the people in this area as well, remember, have been living under blackouts, have been living under stress of attacks from Pakistan. There have been drone attacks aimed at Adampur. There's also reports of missile aimed at Adampur, but all of it was countered by our air defense system. And now the Prime Minister, they're showing and standing with our Air Force men, with our servicemen. The BJP has announced, Tiranga Yatras in various parts of the country to appreciate the armed forces and Operation Sindoor, but nothing could be, more heartening or morale boosting than this visit by the Prime Minister. Let's go across to Nazir also, who joins us from Srinagar. And like Adampur, Nazir, even in, various parts of Jammu and Kashmir, there have been such stress and tension over these last couple of days during the conflict. But now, as ceasefire seems to be holding for the moment, what a visit, what a moment to have the Prime Minister visiting this airbase and just being there among our air warriors.
Exactly, and but also it shows, besides courage of the saluting the courage of the air warriors, air force, armed forces, and it, number one, the way it has shown the accuracy of India's missile strikes. It has shown the great performance of India's air defense system. It has shown the drone penetration into Pakistan, hitting the targets while it hurts, whether it was terror targets or the military targets, all that. But also when Prime Minister goes to this airbase, largest airbase, it also shows that peace. There's ceasefire along the line of control and the borders. India and Pakistani DGMOs have spoken, reiterated that not a single round will be fired from both sides. That is, they have made the commitment. And also bigger than that, much bigger than that, which nobody could have thought, that India and Pakistan will start moving forward with this lightning speed, which is that is withdrawal of troops from the border areas and the forward areas. That is what both DGMOs have yesterday resolved. So, and in the backdrop of that, Prime Minister visiting Adampur Air Base is a most significant thing, not just when there's war-like situation, India can hit back and hit hard. It is a, showing the courage of airmen, accuracy of, missile strikes and penetration into Pakistan, and above all, the India's performance India's this air defense system, how most of the missile attacks and drone attacks from Pakistan, they were neutralized. That is something Adampur, when we say, which is housing S-400 air defense system, which is one of the most advanced, missile systems in the world, and how it is so robust, how it has helped, India's integrated air defense system. All this thing, when there was a lot of propaganda, Prime Minister reaching there, landing there, and tells the story. The air base is perfectly all right. That is the story. And now, from that confrontation, when Adampur was used to target Pakistan and also neutralize attacks from Pakistan, now it is time, after the ceasefire, India means it, and Prime Minister can land there, not just to salute the air warriors, armed forces, everybody who took part in this war, limited war, but also shows now it is almost now all right. So we have achieved the target. Armed forces have accomplished their targets, mission. Now the leadership of the country is there to salute them and show what India can do in peace and also in war.
That's right. And let's just read out once again what the Prime Minister posted about his visit this morning, where he says, I met our brave air warriors and soldiers, a special experience to be with those who epitomize courage, determination and fearlessness. So a big message by the Prime Minister visiting the Adampur Air Base, one of the second largest air bases of the country. And let's go back to Shiv for more on this story and more on the significance and the messaging that it sends out. Because Shiv, even though we say that there was a lot of propaganda and false news being put out there by Pakistan, by China, regarding the damage that was caused to the Adampur air base, and even though it was denied by our forces, always there's some doubts that remain. Maybe something did happen, maybe there was something that took place there, but with the Prime Minister's visit really putting all those doubts to rest, at this time of psychological warfare, in a sense, with the kind of false news being fed on social media, the fog of war and whatnot. But now this, and look at this particular picture where you have that, very wide shot of the Prime Minister, where you can see the entire airbase. So very, very significant in putting to rest all those rumors and, fake news that was being spread online.
I don't want to use an extreme word here, but, this is the equivalent of a psychological slap to your enemy. At a time when your enemy or your adversary, in this case Pakistan, has spent the last 4 or 5 days, 6 days rather, painting a picture of Adampur being completely out of action, being damaged beyond recognition, the fact that aircraft there have been destroyed. I just heard from a friend in the government that one of the things that Pakistan had been pushing through social media a lot was that the Pakistani missiles had destroyed an S-400 site in Adampur, that 60 plus personnel had been killed in Adampur, that the runway has been completely deactivated by bombs. All of this, to be completely debunked in a handful of images of the Prime Minister at this frontline airbase, holds more than just symbolic value, because what the Prime Minister has done by choosing to land at Adampur is send out not just a psychological slap. This isn't just about busting misinformation. This is about sending out a very operational message. This is about reminding Pakistan and reminding really the world, some of which still stands amazingly with Pakistan, that India may have entered a ceasefire understanding with Pakistan, but our warriors on our frontline bases are on a war alert, on a hair trigger to leap, without thinking twice, following orders and getting straight back into operations. And let's make no mistake that Adampur's sheer geography, its location, very close to the international border, frontline airbase, which has been a staging ground for airstrikes in Pakistan across our wars in 1971, 1965, and after that, means that Adampur holds enormous both operational and symbolic value. The Prime Minister interacting with the base commander, the pilots, the radar controllers, the air traffic personnel, the maintenance men and women, the air warriors across so many numerous functions at a large base like Adampur is going to be of inestimable value, because the armed forces don't often see their Prime Minister. Most men and women in uniform go about their careers in the military without ever getting a chance to interact with the Prime Minister. But for him to make a stop there, and it doesn't look like it was a whistle stop, it looks like he actually did spend a few hours there, had a meal with them, or at least a snack with them, obviously also addressed them and, boosted their morale. But I have to say, after what the Indian Air Force has pulled off in the last few days, morale must be very, very high right now. So I don't think any morale boosting would have actually been necessary, but it's still such an amazing gesture that the Prime Minister has chosen to be there. I wonder if the Prime Minister will visit other military bases or sites, but we must also remember that there is a huge security implication to all of this. So the Prime Minister choosing to be in Adampur right in the middle of operations, 2 days after this very base would have been part of historic long-range strikes into Pakistan, sort of boggles the mind a little bit. I'm wondering how the security establishment pulled it all together.
That's right. Really, it must have been quite something to pull this off. As we were reporting on NDTV earlier about the meeting that Rajnath Singh was holding with the Tri-Services Chief, and as Shiv, you pointed out, the Air Force Chief was missing from that meeting, and now we know why, because then shortly after that came this news that the Prime Minister is actually in Adampur, where he has met with our air warriors there, and a big boost for them, and also, as Shiv pointed out, a a slap in the face in the sense to all the sort of propaganda and wrong news that was being put out by Pakistan, by China, that Adampur had been compromised during the hostilities between India and Pakistan, during the conflict that took place. There you can see now we have a video as well of the Prime Minister's visit. Just take a look there, interacting with all those Air Force personnel there. All right, so there you can see videos now of the Prime Minister's visit as he arrived there, walking across the tarmac to meet with the Air Force officials and all the air warriors as he described them. And Shiv, there with us. And Shiv, the significance of Adampur in Jalandhar district and so close to the international border, also one of the lies that was spread by Pakistan, as Nazir was pointing out, was the destruction of the S-400 air defense system, which is here in Adampur. And so tell us a bit about the significance of that with our viewers.
It was one of the most aggressively pushed pieces of misinformation that came in from Pakistan. You saw it being spread across multiple handles. It had gone completely viral. There were doctored images and doctored satellite images that were pushed by Pakistan to suggest that they'd been able to hit, an S-400 air defense missile site situated in Adampur. First of all, there is no confirmation that S-400 even exists in Adampur. Secondly, for Pakistan to make this claim is ludicrous, because the Indian Air Force has confirmed at its armed forces briefing, and this is not something that can be faked, that there was no damage whatsoever to any of its S-400s. This is something that most people don't know. The S-400s did not even need to fire a single missile as part of that incredibly intricate symphony of air defense that played out during the drone swarms and airspace violations. So the Prime Minister being there in Adampur, in fact, someone just sent me a list of the things that Pakistan had said about Adampur, and I want to read it out because it's actually quite hilarious. They claimed that they had hit the Adampur runway. Pakistan claimed that they had hit an Adampur S-400 missile site. Pakistan had claimed that drones had hit the Adampur radar and sensor facility. Pakistan claimed that 60+ personnel, air warriors, had been killed at the Adampur base as a result of their drone and missile strikes. Pakistan used morphed satellite pictures supplied, obviously, surprise, surprise, by China to suggest that damage had been done at Adampur. This has been debunked by open source imagery analysts. And finally, Pakistan said that the Adampur airbase will be out of action for years, since the damage caused has been so destructive. It will take years of reconstruction and renovation for it to be worthy of military operations once again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 or 6 pieces of misinformation by Pakistan only pertaining to Adampur have been busted in just a couple of hours during this visit by Prime Minister Modi. And I think there couldn't be a better way to have
All right, so that is the big breaking news. We're bringing you this a visit of the Prime Ministers. What a moment to have just 2 days after the ceasefire is declared, even as we remain in a state of high alert, high vigil along our border after the ceasefire and after the hostilities between India and Pakistan, the conflict that we have seen. The Prime Minister now visiting Adampur Air Base in Jalandhar district near the international border. This is one of our key air bases, the second largest in the country, that has played a key role in wars, from 1965 to the Kargil war as well, and which was a target of misinformation by Pakistan. Yes, there were drones that were targeted here and missiles, but all of them had been intercepted by our air defense system. However, the lies continue to be spread on social media, on even claims being made by Pakistan about how the Adampur air base had been severely damaged in those hostilities, in strikes by Pakistan. Pakistan, which was denied by the defense forces. But even so, just to have the Prime Minister actually visiting there, really putting to rest if any doubts remained anywhere regarding Adampur Air Base. So the Prime Minister making this quick trip this morning to the Adampur Air Base, interacting with soldiers, and he also posted regarding this, saying that I met our brave air warriors and soldiers, a special experience to be with those who epitomize courage, determination and fearlessness. Aishwarya also joins us for more. And Aishwarya, you know, what a moment. Look at the optics of this, to have the Prime Minister visiting this air base that was targeted by Pakistan, and also much misinformation was spread regarding this air base on social media as well. So quite a moment, and it was done so quietly. We had no idea. With the Raksha Mantri was holding a meeting in Delhi with the Tri-Services Chief, but the Air Force Chief was missing, and now we know why.
Well, certainly a momentous occasion. Prime Minister often has been seen celebrating with the armed forces, Jawans at the border areas on Diwali. But as it is, of course, a victory for the armed forces, as Operation Sindoor was successful, Prime Minister himself went to Adampur Air Base. We've been getting more specific details of Prime Minister's trip to Adampur as he left at 7 a.m. in the morning from Palam Air Base to Adampur. Air Force Chief Marshal A.P. Singh accompanied him. Prime Minister spent about an hour with the airmen. Adampur Air Base is the base of Air Force MiG-29 fighter jets. And remember, Pakistan had claimed that Pakistan Air Force had attacked India's S-400 missile systems in Adampur, but there was complete misinformation, fake narrative being peddled by the Pakistani, and it is Prime Minister Narendra Modi who also met the fighter pilots, the technical support staff who carried out the operations. Prime Minister Modi himself has had expressed a desire to meet the air warriors, and certainly those pictures, those visuals of Jai Hind being chanted, Prime Minister taking selfies along with the airmen, the air warriors, and specifically those officers who conducted a successful operation, who hit the target of different air bases in Pakistan. It is, of course, Adampur Air Base, which is very, very strategical and holds very important strategical air base for the Indian Air Force, located in Jalandhar district in Punjab. And Prime Minister went there 7 a.m. in the sharp. He returned at around 9:30 a.m. in the morning back to his residence. Several meetings are being followed after that. I can confirm to our viewers that currently NSA Ajit Doval is at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, and he is holding a crucial meeting, briefing Prime Minister about the latest developments. But of course, at the South Block, where Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is, he had held a crucial meeting there as well. But as we are speaking about these visuals, these momentous occasion for those air warriors who have fought India and made India proud, and hit specific targets that had been assigned to them. Why it is very important as far as strategic locations is concerned. More details emerging out of why Prime Minister specifically chose Adampur Air Base and met these warriors. It is, of course, located very close to India-Pakistan border, making it suitable for rapid retaliation on the Western Front, and therefore the reason perhaps when the drones and missiles were coming across the international border, it was the Adampur Air Base, the air defense system, which was activated and had neutralized all those drones and missiles in case of a war or military conflict. This air base serves for a frontline base for India as well. It has active fighter squadrons as far as Sukhoi 30 MKI and MiG-29. They have been operating from Adampur Air Base itself, and these fighters jets have ability to respond very quickly and strike deep into the enemy territory, and that's what we have seen during Operation Sindoor as well. Security and surveillance. There is air surveillance or air defense for northwest India. It has a key role to ensure that the security of border states like Punjab, Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan comes, and this air base also gives a huge amount of logical support network to the entire Indian Air Force in terms of infrastructure, supporting the combat operations and air support missions as well. And it has history. Adampur Air Base has a history. Remember, India-Pakistan wars of 1965 and 1971. Adampur Air Base had played a very key role, which further increases the history and military significance as well. And therefore, the reason Prime Minister Narendra Modi, early up in the morning, yesterday evening, he delivered that that address to the nation, in which he drawn a straight line as to no Pakistani terror would be tolerated from here on. And the next morning, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is known for his surprises, this time as well, he gave a surprise, visited the airbase, and also certainly boosted up the morale of air warriors, the officers who had been completely put their life and soul for the last 2 weeks in Operation Sindoor and conducted those operations. It is a movement that they will remember for lifetime, certainly.
Thanks so much, Aishwarya, for joining us with that. So that is the big story. We're tracking the Prime Minister's quick morning visit to the Adampur Air Base. He is back now holding a meeting with the NSA, as Aishwarya was telling us. It's over to my colleague Kitty now for more.
Thanks, Gargi. Well, Prime Minister Modi visiting Punjab's Adampur Air Base. He's seen interacting with the soldiers there. This comes just days after India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire. Well, those visuals on your TV screens there, Prime Minister Modi speaking to the IAF personnel and this definitely looks like how's the Josh moment. Remember, this has been an important tagline, a very interesting tagline that has been used before. And Adampur was among the Air Force stations. We're learning that Pakistan had attempted to attack on the intervening night of May 9th and 10th after India's Operation Sindoor. Well, Prime Minister Modi here meeting the IAF personnel, cheering them up. And this is the latest visuals that are coming in at the moment. My colleague Shiv Arur also joins us on the broadcast here. He is in Srinagar, as well as my colleague Aishwarya Jain with us here on the broadcast. He is in the national capital. Let me go across to Aishwarya first. Well, Aishwarya, this is one of the most important, significant moments here. Prime Minister Modi meeting the soldiers, IAF personnel at the Adampur Air Force base. We understand the Air Force personnel were also seen speaking to Prime Minister Modi. Those visuals on your TV screens there, this video also now has been put out. This has come out now. And what does it signal?
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi often is known for his surprises, and often we have seen him celebrating Diwali with the armed forces, Jawans at the border areas, and frequently he visits there to boost up the morale of our armed forces. And this time, as Operation Sindoor was successful, it was another surprise that Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave to our Indian Air Force. Remember, Operation Sindoor had a lot to say about the entire operations that the Indian Air Force Jawans specifically had given. This morning, the details are now emerging. As far as Prime Minister visiting Adampur Air Base, he left from at 7 a.m. in the morning to Palam Air Base, where he was accompanied with Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, and he reached there he spent about an hour with the airmen at Adampur Air Base, and also the Air Force MiG-29 fighter jets were there. He met the airmen, the fighter pilots, the technical support staff, and we are now witnessing on our screens those visuals of Jai Hind, slogans being chanting around Prime Minister, boosting the morale of Indian Air Force soldiers at the airbase. Remember, Pakistan had completely peddled fake narrative around how they have destroyed the Adampur Air Base air defense system as 400 over there. But there you can see Prime Minister straight away heading in between between those soldiers, boosting morale after a successful Operation Sindoor. It's strategic. It has a history. In 1965 and 1971 Indo-Pak War, Adampur Air Base had played a very crucial role with a strategic location just near the India-Pakistan border in Jalandhar district, and also holds a significance to save India's western front, Jammu and Kashmir, Punjab, and also Rajasthan. Adampur Air Base has something which, as far as Sukhoi, Sukhoi is concerned, or it is, of course, MiG-29, which have been operated from this airbase. Prime Minister can be seen with those aircraft just behind him in these visuals. So a clear-cut message to the people sitting across the borders. Absolutely. And a boost that Prime Minister is with the armed forces.
Absolutely.
And it's
time
a morale
and again,
booster,
Prime Minister Modi has reiterated that Adampur, we understand, is India's second largest air base. It was among the key military installations that Pakistan had tried to attack on May 9th and May 10th on the intervening night after India's strikes as part of Operation Sindoor. Well, we understand now Prime Minister Modi in this tweet that he put out earlier at 12:28 p.m. In which he posted these photos. The videos, of course, came out later. He said that I went to the AFS Adampur and met our brave air warriors and soldiers. It was a very special experience to be with those who epitomize courage, determination, and fearlessness. India is eternally grateful to our armed forces for everything they do for our nation. And indeed, we as citizens of the country are grateful to our armed forces, to our soldiers who've been guarding us at the borders and keeping us safe all these days. We understand when there has been brewing tensions between India and Pakistan after the dastardly terror attack at Pahalgam in Kashmir, in which 26 innocent lives were lost. My colleague Nazir also with us on the broadcast. He's from Srinagar now. Well, Adampur is home to India's second largest air base, Nazir, and of course has been on the edge for days. This was, we understand, that has been one of the military establishments that was on the target of the terrorists as well. And this is a significant moment. Prime Minister Modi now going to Adampur, meeting with the IAF personnel and, increasing in these visuals, as you know, we see these soldiers, the IAF personnel speaking to Prime Minister Modi. They seem very happy. They seem very pleased. And Prime Minister Modi definitely, boosting the morale of the soldiers there.
Well, Prime Minister's visit in itself is a message in many ways. Number one, the Air Force base, Adampur base, is very much functional. It has not suffered any damage. It is so functional, so perfect that Prime Minister can land there. Then to show gratitude to the air warriors who have accomplished their mission and the targeting whether terror sites or the military targets in Pakistan after the confrontation. And now it is ceasefire. So showing gratitude, because in his address to the nation yesterday, Prime Minister said he salute all those armed force personnel, whether Air Force, Army or the Navy. Now he wanted to translate that into action going there.